Boom, and we're live. Welcome to the Soscast episode. It's episode 54, I believe. I don't know. I can't keep track, but
yes, 54.
Wow, I have some special guests. Let me get into the show, but I'm excited to introduce you to who do we have today. But here on the Soscast, this is where finance meets romance, right? So only here on Valuetainment, the number one channel in the world for entrepreneurs. So shout out to all the entrepreneurs out there. Shout out to all the gentlemen tuning in, and even the lovely ladies who tune in from time to time. Yes. Lovely ladies like Natalia. She knows what's going on. But my name is Adam Sosnick, and I am here to help you gentlemen improve financially in the sexual marketplace and just win in life. What we always say, Nat, we want to get you paid, laid, so you can do it your way. That's what's going on. So before I introduce our guests, let me just say that we handpicked who I thought would be the type of people that you can learn from no matter where you're at in life. These are successful, accomplished men. These aren't kids. These aren't like sissies. These aren't wussies. These are gentlemen who have made it in business, in life, with women, success, all the above. You're going to get to know each of them on their own. But I'm excited to share who these people are with you today. And if you're a young man listening and you're looking for success, if you're looking to improve, if you're looking to get better in life, take out a freaking notepad and take notes, because some gems are going to be dropped today. With that being said, let me introduce our panel. To my left, this is my good friend, Mr. Jorge Moreno. You can call him Jorge Moreno. Jorge Moreno, musician, Latin Grammy Award winner for Best New Artist. This was in what year?
That was 2002. So
2002, 20 years ago, bro.
20 fucking
now
years
he's
ago.
Not even new. He's old. But
best old artist.
Singer, Latin lover, sex symbol, some may say. Now he is I think you were discovered by Madonna.
Yeah.
I want to say. Now he is a restaurateur, hospitality, real estate, and just a Miami icon. Speaking of Miami icons, it's crazy. I've known this guy and his name, his face, and his reputation for 20 years. This is our first time actually like sitting down in the same room. We've been many times in the same club, Michael, but this is the first time that I've actually sat down with Michael Capponi, businessman, nightlife legend in Miami, who has transitioned to basically a philanthropist and a humanitarian. You started something called the GME, the Global Empowerment Mission. And wow, we're going to show you some stories of what this guy's doing. Talk about giving back and making a difference. Michael Capponi is doing that. And then last but not least, definitely not last, don't hurt me now, Ricky Aguilar. You know him, you love him, you've seen him on PBD podcast this morning. Former Mexican gangster who has turned into successful businessman, entrepreneur, and leader of the PHP company that Pat owns, that just sold for a multi-9-figure check. We won't put things out there, but there's a lot of freaking zeros that go that way into PHP. So whether you're more of an artist type, whether you're more of a philanthropist type, whether you're more of a business type, whether you're more of a musician type, party type, gangster type, you're going to resonate with somebody on the show today. So like I said, take notes. And last but not least, I'd be remiss if I didn't give a little shout out to the lovely, the adorable, the amazing, the best smile in the business, Natalia Del Valle.
Hello.
Nat, how you feeling, girl? Tell me what's going on your mind.
I'm really excited. I think this is going to be a very, very interesting Soscast. I think we have a really good lineup. I think we're going to not only get relationship advice, but we're going to get like real life money advice and like how to move your life forward, like with like tools. So I think, like he said, if you have your pen and your paper, make sure you guys have that ready. And if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Like this video. We've already have 100 people watching. Like this video, comment, subscribe, share, and make sure you do that all around with all of our channels, but especially right now, Valuetainment Money. So let's get this party started.
And we're going to be answering your questions throughout the episode. Super chats, Nat, you're going to be managing that.
Yes.
You're talking about guys who have performed live before, spoken live on stage, been live on camera. But I don't know how many times you guys have been on live on YouTube, but super chats is basically where the people out there pay to ask you guys questions. So this is capitalism. The more you pay, the more likely is your questions will be answered. Let's get into today's episode. And this is all about gentlemen dropping knowledge for you young men out there. So let's start with the panel. Okay, from my left to the right. So the whole concept here is where finance meets romance, and this is where money and relationships meet. So let's get to know you guys individually. So tell us who you are, your relationship status, and how you make your money. All right, fair questions?
Sure.
George, would you like to go first?
My name is Jorge Moreno. I am Cuban American, born here in Miami, and I My relationship status is I have a fiance, a very beautiful woman named America.
God bless America.
God bless America. You can make America great again. You can say whatever you want. I've said them all. And she's very cool. I have 3 wonderful kids. And I make my money through hospitality, but mainly on the real estate side of what I do basically is I buy a property and I'll turn it into a hospitality venue, either an Airbnb or a restaurant or whatever it might be. And then I make rent from that property. And I also get operators for that property so that I'm a partner in the property, but I'm also the landlord. And that's basically how I make the majority of my money.
Gotcha. And we'll get into this throughout the episode, obviously, the real estate, but Mr. Gold Diggers Saloon in Miami.
Mr. Wright's Gold Digger Saloon is now called, it's now Boho. During
now
the pandemic, we changed it to Boho. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Boho in South Beach and Wynwood?
No, in Wynwood.
In Wynwood?
It's really Edgewater, but
Edgewater,
it's
Wynwood.
right there.
But basically, you have a bar that was a dope little, cool little kind of Western bar that was doing okay, but it's outdoor bar. And then during the pandemic, everything shut down. Your bar went to the #1 bar in Miami.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Blew up.
And I got to text George to get into the freaking one of my closest friends. I'm like, yo, bro, you get me in here? So thank you for reaching out. Michael Capponi, a little bit about your background, where you started, where you're at now, your relationship status, and how you make your money. You can bring that closer to you.
Yeah, well, we started in the late 80s in South Beach scene when Ocean Drive hadn't even been renovated yet. And we started by throwing small parties, and that cultivated, the model industry was just coming into Miami, and we would throw these traveling parties like every Friday night in a different location. And literally over the years, Miami just became this, it just exploded. And you'd have people like Stallone, for example, would come in, and he just couldn't believe like the, energy, the environment then back there in the very early 90s. And when all these people started, wanting to move to Miami because it was so cool, they gave it a lot of publicity, right? So next thing you know, Stallone, Madonna, Versace, everybody buys a house in Miami.
And you're rubbing elbows with all these guys, Capone, right?
And when all that happened, it really put Miami on the map, It was a combination of, the nightlife industry that was forming and the renovators that like redid Ocean Drive, the Tony Goldmans, the Craig Robins, right? And also the fashion industry that brought in all that. So that was the beginning of it, and it was interesting to be there, as a kid. Really, I was in high school when all this was going down. So.
And now, what do you got going on? Relationship status and what you're doing now?
I mean, I'm single now. I'm basically married to humanitarian work.
Wow.
I've just spent the last 7 months in Ukraine and Poland. I've literally been home like 10 days since the war started. I dedicate 100% of my life, not to business, but to giving back at this point. There is no time for relationships.
Yeah, can we show up a clip, Michael in Ukraine? So, again, just to recap what Michael said, former nightlife guy, he's kind of being a little, not putting himself out there. When I say, like, legendary icon in South Beach, Michael Capponi, Moreno, you know very well who Michael Capponi is.
Fuck yes, I do.
And he's transitioned completely to humanitarian work. I talk about basically giving back. If you could do anything you want, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? A lot of people say they want to travel. A lot of people say they want to pursue a passion. And a lot of people say they want to give back to humanity or society, whether that's helping the homeless or helping, war-torn countries. And that's exactly what you're doing. Let's get a quick clip of Michael Capponi, what he's doing in Ukraine. And he's transitioned completely to humanitarian. Hold on. I talk about... Turn that audio off. There you go.
Gotcha. And then audio in the back on.
Turn that up.
This is up. Okay.
Here in front of the Medyka Ukraine border. Right here is Ukraine borders. Basically, we're dealing with, an influx of people now that have arrived. As you could see, yesterday there was maybe a family coming through, every couple minutes. Now it looks like every couple seconds there's families coming through. So, Global Empowerment Mission, partnership with Bethany Frankel's Be Strong. We are here basically setting up with hundreds of volunteers from Poland and Ukraine. And we're going to be interviewing families. So I'm standing.
Awesome. And that was at the beginning of the war, I want to say. That was in February.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that is that the war had literally started the day before.
Straight up.
We had the foresight enough to be there, right? I already knew that there was going to be an influx of millions of people. So I went to where I'm speaking at the border now. It hasn't even happened really yet.
Really?
2 days later, it looks like a Super Bowl emptying out every hour.
That's what I was going to say, is how many millions of people went through that exact border the next day or with the next month?
Yeah.
Millions, yeah?
6 million.
Crazy. 6 million. Wow. And you just came back from Ukraine.
Yeah.
Wow. All right. So we're going to touch on Ukraine and obviously everything that you do with the GEM. Well, let's meet our final panelist, Ricky Aguilar. Tell us your story, relationship status, and how many zeros are in the bank account right now.
Yeah, you don't talk about that because the family comes knocking on the door. I have cousins from everywhere, you know. Every time they hit me up from Mexico, the cousins that I don't know, because it happens often, they're like, you know, what advice can you give me? I'm like, buy a map. I'm like, why a map? I'm here, you're there, get your ass up here. That's my tip of the day. Yeah, come to California. Well, not California, you know, any other state except California, but I was born, you know, lived there, raised there. But anyway, so Mexican immigrant, come from Mexican immigrant family. We're from Michoacan, Mexico. It's the middle of Mexico. The town where we're from is one of the most dangerous towns in Mexico right now. It's you know, cartel war torn, and all of Mexico is, but that in specific area. It's because it breeded a lot of the biggest capos in Mexico, so they're fighting. They're not fighting it because it's any type of terrain that, you know, produces anything. It's just because it's their homeland, and so a couple of bosses are from the same town, so they're always going at it, trying to take that town back. But anyway, my family migrated to California. My dad was a successful entrepreneur. My parents got divorced when I was 6 years old, and then my mom was a very proud Mexicana. My dad was 28 when he married my mom. She was 17. So everybody said, "Oh, your mom and your dad your mom married your dad because of interest," right? That's what everybody's saying, you know, because my dad already had, you know, restaurants and all kinds of businesses and whatnot. He had no papers, by the way, while he was doing that. So I don't believe in everybody's bullshit excuses. But anyway, point is that so whenever they got divorced, she's like, "I'm not going to take anything." So she went from owning 4 restaurants in a dealership or a car wash to being a waitress at a restaurant, and she would not take anything more than whatever my dad was, you know, whatever the judge had told him for child support. So we went from living in a nice area in a certain part of town to moving to East Bakersfield, which is one of the second biggest barrio in California. And then I come from a family of charros. We're horseback riders, we're cowboys, we're not gang members, we're not any of that. But because the environment that you're in is stronger, you know, it's nature versus nurture. And so got involved, you know, in the neighborhood right there and with the guys and doing a bunch of stupid things, got in trouble, got locked up when I was young. I think I was 19 years old when I caught my first case at 18, but I caught a case that got me locked up when I was 19 or 20 years old. And then started, you know, just hustling, doing my thing. And then eventually came across Patrick and saw something different in what he was doing. I fell in love with the mission and the crusade that he had going on. And my ultimate goal is to do what Michael's doing. You know, I love that. Like 15, a lot of people don't know that in Africa, 15% of kids under the age of 12, 15% of the kids of 15% of kids under the age of 12 are actually dying from diarrhea because they don't have clean drinking water. So can you imagine a kid dying of diarrhea? It's horrible to me. So eventually I admire that big time. I want to do that philanthropy and go out there and help. But anyway, point is that now we're with PHP. We run the #1 team in PHP. So we, you know, the TCO organization, we play a big role in PHP, and we're very blessed to be working with Patrick and be helping him build the company and building it. Obviously because of the crusade that we have going on, and, you know, helping a lot of young people and older people, whatever the case may be, make some extra income. But it's blessed us. It's the #1 industry in the country, so it's blessed us. So
here, relationship status. You gotta give a shout out to Erica, bro.
My bro, she's Mexican, bro. She'll slice my throat when I'm sleeping, bro. So shout out to my wife. Yeah, it's because we're gonna get into relationships in my second marriage. I was married once before, but this is my second one. It's funny because sometimes you're with somebody, you think you're gonna be with them forever, until something happens, and then you meet your real soulmate. So I met my soulmate. Luckily, now I'm 34 years old, and she's 32. She just turned 32. She turned 32 in Paris. We were in Paris, Monaco, when she turned 32. They sang her happy birthday in Monaco. It was awesome. But anyway, that's my soulmate. So yeah, married and very, very happily married.
Awesome, bro.
I just got to throw it out there real quick. She did tell me, when you go to the podcast, because you never do it every time you go, you got to shout me out. So, babe, I'm shouting you out because I don't want to
slit your throat, bro.
Yes,
if you don't
slit my throat. Yeah.
I was gonna jump right into relationship stuff, but since we're on this theme of, humanitarianism, and we have a Cuban immigrant, and I believe your family is from Europe initially, but you've been all over the world, Haiti, Europe, Ukraine, obviously Mexican, your stories. I kind of want to get into how lucky are we to be in the United States of America? Okay, and I want to kind of just, this isn't money, this isn't relationships, this is not what we typically talk about, but I do want to spend a second just talking about America in general, okay? And there's a lot of young people in America. There's a poll out recently, like, do you believe in capitalism or communism? And kind of trending in that direction. But I'm not even trying to get geopolitical or economic. I'm just talking about the concept of America. I feel like has been bruised lately. You know, we talked about it on the podcast earlier. There's no other country in the world, you know, refugee stuff aside, where there's a line of people trying to get into America. You can talk about this being a Cuban refugee, everything in Mexico. So if we can just go around, just what have you seen around the world, and what have you heard from your family members from other parts of the world that makes you appreciate America so much? Michael, you want to start with you, especially everything you're seeing in Ukraine, and what have you seen in Haiti, all around the world? What is it about America that you appreciate so much?
Yeah, as divided as it seems that we are, right, and all this division, if you look at, you know, other countries, I mean, imagine sleeping in Ukraine right now. You have no idea if you're going to wake up the next day. You don't know if a bomb's just gonna hit your house. You know, in Haiti, forget it. The government is so corrupt and unstable that, you know, it's basically like if the Democrats and Republicans were actually gang members shooting each other, like that's like on that level where everything is blockaded and stuff. So, you know, when I do come back here and I look at, you know, just the news and everyone's arguing about policies and things like that, it's almost laughable compared to some of the bigger problems going on in the world right now.
Yeah, of course. It puts things in perspective when you see things going on, whether it's Trump stuff or Biden stuff or whatever you kind of want to get. Not that this is a political show. This is a question more about America. I assume it makes you appreciate, like, holy moly, I can just lay down, not have an issue, not have to worry about a bomb going off, not have to worry about my drinking water not being contaminated, not have to worry about refugee crisis. Speak more to that, if you would.
Yeah, you know, I never even, I'm a very peace spiritual person, and I never really understood the value of investing in military and things like that until I was actually there and I saw, you know, what happens when a country's weak and that it could get stepped on. And, you know, our security here, how we can sleep at night not having to worry about anything, you know, that's worth everything. And not every country has that.
Did your perspective get even more enhanced since Ukraine? Like, you've always had this perspective, everything you've been around the world, you know, especially with Haiti, you know, which is only, you know, an hour flight away from Miami, whatever it is. So I assume you already had this kind of built into your DNA. But now with Ukraine, I assume that's even more amplified. Am I right?
Yeah, it's not just Ukraine, though. It's the general stability. We may flux between $1 or $2 in gas prices or things like that and policies. But again, there's countries like Venezuela where you go from having everything to nothing and you have to, like, leave your country. Or Cuba, you have to leave forever.
Of course.
You know, these are much greater situations, right? So we have that stability where we don't really have to worry about these things.
Well, speaking of Cuba, your family are Cuban immigrants, right?
Yeah, I'm not a Cuban immigrant. I was born here in Miami, but my parents are. My parents came actually a year before the whole revolution. But after the revolution, they were kind of screwed. They couldn't take anything out, and the whole thing happened. So my family went from being, you know, upper middle class to working in factories in Hialeah and Miami Beach, you know, sewing factories, so on and so forth. But that's the story of every Cuban that came here, you know, and the story still of Cubans that are coming now. I mean, now, the Cubans now have huge balls. Because they're coming in these little makeshift rafts that they're not even rafts like they used to be. Back in the day, they used to take boats and these things. Now they're just making it out of anything. And they're coming over...
Still to this day?
No, they're coming over now more than ever.
Really? Right
now, they're coming over more than ever. And we only know about the ones that end up on the shores.
That make it.
Yeah, we don't know about how many people have died. And a lot of people have probably died. Same thing's happening with Haiti. Same thing happens in a lot of different parts of the world. But Cuba, it's still happening 60-something years after the revolution. And what it is why I think these things happen in a lot of other places is because someone that's very charismatic, someone that is a cult of personality rises to power and gets a lot of people stirred up, gets a lot of people divided, gets a lot of people against each other. And they use that as to feed themselves, and they get into these positions of power. They become dictators, and they basically fuck everybody over. They fuck everybody over. Some people say they're very highly intelligent, like a Hitler was intelligent and a Castro was intelligent, or whatever they might say. But those people, they might have intelligence, but they're not smart, because instead of using that power for good, they use it for greed. They use it because they want to be in power. They want to control the masses. They don't want, Castro, he could have been a hero. He started off kind of looking like a hero. He came saying, I'm going to get Batista, the dictator, out of power, and I'm going to be this democratic president. And then a year in, he's like, I'm really communist. The whole, everything that happened, Cuban Missile Crisis and everything, and he turned into the villain. But he started off as the hero. Everybody was cheering him on. And
in addition with Che Guevara, right?
In addition with Che Guevara, yeah, of course. Che Guevara started as a hero too and turned into a murderer. These guys turned into murderers because, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And these guys, they become a cult of personality. They start believing that their shit doesn't stink. They start believing that they are, it's the ego. They start believing they are these gods. They are the heads of these things. And they start believing they're bullshit. Castro lived a very rich life.
Yep.
Him and his kids are still out there and on big yachts and all over the place. These people do not live like the majority of Cubans.
So back to your appreciation of America. What have you learned being a Cuban immigrant or a child of a Cuban immigrant in Miami?
America, I can go out right now and I can make fun of Donald Trump. I can make fun of Biden. I can make fun of any political figure, and I'm not going to go to jail. All right? I mean, I might, have an argument with somebody, but I'm not going to jail. I have the right to speak my mind. I have the right to speak my mind right now on this podcast.
Yeah, of course.
If I was in Cuba, I couldn't speak about the government.
Right.
If
you see what's going on in Iran right now, there's people,
there's a girl
women that don't,
right?
You've seen this story, but a woman, they just want to basically not wear the hijab.
Yeah.
And they're, revolting in that regard. And they made an example of one woman in Iran, she apparently 22-year-old girl died of a heart attack. Right. We all know what happened. They have the morality police in Iran. But
fashion police.
Exactly. So continue, sir.
So something like that, what that does is these people aren't intelligent, because if they're intelligent, you catch more bees with honey. What they did in Iran right now is they're starting a revolution for the opposite of what they wanted. They wanted to, control one girl and say, hey, respect hijab or whatever. And what they did was they pissed off every other woman in Iran, which starts this underground movement. So right now they've gone 500 steps back instead of going one step forward. And that's how change happens. Unfortunately, there's always a casualty. There's always some type of, collateral damage that happens. And this girl that got killed, it's horrible. But that girl that got killed now started basically a revolution, like a George Floyd, like many things that happen. That it's this spark. It's this one spark that ignites and it catches on like wildfire. Right now in Iran, they have a situation on their hands.
Yeah, and thank God we're in America. You can speak your mind.
Yeah.
Someone who's definitely not afraid to speak their mind, Ricardo Aguilar. What's it? I mean, you're in California. I have a lot of family. California, as you like to call it. But I have a lot of family in San Diego. And I remember talking to my cousins, being like, "Yo, bro, let's go to Tijuana." He's like, "Yeah, we're not gonna." I'm like, "What do you mean?" Because you hear stories about people. Because how far is San Diego from Tijuana? Half hour, whatever it is.
No, it's border. They're
border town, whatever the hell it is. And me being, and this is years ago, but one to push the envelope. Oh, come on, bro, how bad could it be? And he's like, "Dude, Adam, we're not going to fucking Tijuana. Okay, enough. Drop it." I'm like, "All right, fine." So just a couple miles down the road, America versus Mexico. What have you experienced?
I think that going back to what the two gentlemen were talking about is the peace of being able to live where you live. So I got a call from one of my buddies the other day, and he says, I have a lot of family down there, and he says, "Hey, my cousin went missing. They literally ran up in there and took him out of his house, and he's missing. And do you know anybody?" And I said, "Well, if they went that far, it's probably because he did something, right? You call the police and you're trying to complain, they're going to call the cartels because they work for the cartels. I mean, they just came out when Chapo went to trial. He started to talk about the president Enrique Peña Nieto, which is a real model-looking president that we just had.
Kind of like what he described.
Yes, charismatic. And the judge stopped them, and he made the jury go out. And he says, you're not going to talk about the president here. So he goes to the highest level of government. The reason I tell you that is because here you call the cops. You don't have to worry about them calling somebody. See, what happens if you call the cops in Mexico?
Yeah.
The cartels are showing up.
Oh, really?
Yes. You call the cops here, a cop showing up.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So whether you call a complainer, you whatever happens, somebody goes missing, you call the cops, their next call is going to the cartel. And so then they're going to come pick you up. Nobody's there to protect you. You got to keep shit to yourself. And that's just the way things go down there. And they have a business, it's profitable, and you don't want to. And I'm not talking about every state. Some states are like that. Some of them, they do not allow it because they protect the communities a lot. But if you happen to be like in Tamaulipas, Veracruz, or kind of where in eastern Mexico, where they're all up to no good, but they're really up to no good. If your business is profitable, they'll come and tax you. And if for whatever reason you don't have the money or you don't want to pay the money, they'll just take it from you. They'll kill you and take it from you, or they'll burn it down. You show up the next day, you have it burned down. So just the freedom of just being able to just call the cops if something happens. Mm-hmm. Anything simple without them calling somebody else. So when you get pulled over in Mexico, this is how you know it's not going down the right path. So you get pulled over and a cop comes up to you. He makes you get out of your car, and if he goes for his cell phone, he's calling. He's not using the radio, so radio it in. He's calling the cartels. They're gonna let you go. And
if he uses the radio, phone, he's calling the other cops. Yes. Cell phone, cartels.
Well, they're gonna what they're and the dude's like, okay, have a good day. They'll let you go, and then the cartels will stop you.
Yeah.
And if they decide that they like your truck, they're gonna take your truck. They decide, and this is not all of Mexico, but some parts of it, they decide to like your daughter, they're taking your daughter, right? So just the freedom of being able to go somewhere with your family without getting carjacked or having somebody in your family because they happen to be good looking. And again, this is not all in Mexico, so but in all of Mexico, you have to worry about that. There's no Second Amendment, so the only people that have guns are the cartels and the cops, so you can't protect yourself.
Is that why you're so pro Second Amendment here in the America?
I'm 100% pro Second Amendment.
Because you've seen what happens if you don't have access to guns in Mexico. Is that why?
People that are, and this is, I don't give a shit. I don't give a fuck about the respect or not. You're fucking stupid if you don't believe in the Second Amendment. Because every society doesn't have it. Cuba doesn't have it. You can't revolt against the government. You can't revolt, right? So in Mexico, you don't have that type of luxury, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have the luxury of like protecting your family. Imagine they roll up to your house, right? And they want to take your family, the cartels, where you can't even shoot back. You just got to let it happen or they're going to kill everybody in the family, right? Tell you one last story before we move on. There was a couple of guys that were selling drugs there in Coahuila. The two brothers, they decided they don't want to, they're part of the cartel. I don't know what happened. Things got a little hot for them. They're like, you know what? We want out. We want to retire. So they left to Texas because Texas is right there. The last name was Garza. You guys could actually look this story up. And the cartel said, you have one day to come back. And if you don't come back, we're going to kill everybody with your last name in the surrounding area. And that's exactly what they did. That's exactly So that's exactly what they did. They went in there. They eliminated everybody with the same last name. So that's how bad it gets. Even if you don't, aunque no la debas, las pagas. That's saying even if you don't owe it, you pay it because that's just the way things go. So being in America, you don't have to worry about things like that. I think people take it for granted and they become sissies over here.
Touching upon one of the things that he said, I believe in the Second Amendment, but there's so many polarizing things here happening in the United States that we're getting split up into extremes, right? So there are a lot of people that are for Second Amendment and they're like, don't take away any fucking gun. It's like they're at one end of the spectrum. And then there's a bunch of other people which are at another end of the spectrum that are saying we shouldn't have guns. Why? Canada doesn't have guns. The United Kingdom doesn't have guns. Why do we have guns? And I'm somewhere, I wouldn't say in between. I'm pro-gun. I have a gun. But I don't believe in the AR-15s. I don't believe in these guns that are going out there and kids being able to get these guns very easily, going out there and going into schools and doing whatever, wherever they go, and people coming into the workplace. I think that we should have that Second Amendment. I do believe that we should have guns because I know what happens. Look at the Ukraine. Look what happens to Cuba. Look what happens to all these people. They get bullied, right? And if the people can't stand up for themselves, they're screwed. So I believe definitely we should always have that right to stand up for ourselves. Yeah. But I believe we shouldn't take it to the extreme. You're not hunting deer with an AR-15. You're not. There's no need for some of these. But the Second Amendment was never intended to hunt deer. It was meant to be able to protect your family and against a tyrannical government. You can't do that with the 9. I own AR-15s, a lot of them. You can't do that with the 9mm pistol. You just can't. And I, by the way, I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I don't like the fact that you could just go, like in California, we have a 10-day cooling off period. And by the way, as pro-gun as I am, I think every state should have that. Like in Texas, you can go and buy a gun right now this instant. If you're hot after having a conversation with Michael, you'll go kill him.
So in we have a 10. I 100% agree with you. I don't. As far as the type of gun I want to, like, the military has tanks. My little AR-15 ain't gonna do nothing against them. So when you compare, does that make sense? But what I'm getting at is that I think a 10-day cooling off period. Everybody already has background checks. We already have that. Like, people are like, we need more background. We already have them. But 10-day cooling off period and then not only that, it gives the government in California 10 days to catch any felonies or misdemeanors that you may have, so then they could deny the gun from you. So I think every state, so that's going back to fixing what you're saying. Yeah. I 100% agree with you. I don't think an 18-year-old kid should be running around, because I own them, I don't think an 18-year-old kid should be running around with an AR-15 at all. I don't think they're responsible enough. But going back to, like I said, I do want to be able to defend my family in case, 9mm ain't going to do it, because I have
I think what you're both are saying is needs to be some common ground. It shouldn't be zero guns. No, sorry. No, you get nothing. And it shouldn't be like you can walk around with a freaking bazooka. Right? There needs to be some sort of moderation.
You should not be able to. An 18-year-old kid should not be able to go into a store and walk out with an AR-15, bro. And I'm telling you because I own them.
Yeah.
You should not be able to do that.
So there should be age limits on this?
I think for an AR 9mm or whatever, I think 21. And again, a lot of my buddies are going to watch this or not, because I am pro Second Amendment, I'm pro gun. I don't think you should own an AR-15 until you're 25 years old. Really? And still be able to pass,
But some people are going to say that's very un-American of you, Richie.
I don't really give a shit what they think, because at the end of the day, well, he's right. Yeah. There's certain things that you get bullied in school, whatever. At least at 25, because what is it? The frontalopia? What is that thing called right here in the front? It stops developing at 26. So you're thinking a little bit more wiser. How did he go from the king of Miami of partying to philanthropist? Because he grew, he matured. So you need to go through that process as an adult.
Of course.
And I think at 18, you don't. I know at 18 you get shit. It was game over. You know what I mean?
Well, we're definitely going to discuss some, about maturing and growing and transitioning. Do you want to weigh in on this gun situation? Or this is not your thing? What I do want to get your opinion on, Michael, though, is we talked about a charismatic leader, whether that's Castro, whether that's people around the world. Who basically you brought up Hitler, Castro, Stalin,
Andrew Tate.
Andrew, definitely a charismatic leader.
That guy's dangerous.
I wouldn't put him in that category with those guys.
However, he could be dangerous.
He could be. He's not, but he's dangerous.
You're throwing Tate in that category.
Right now, he's dangerous to the institution.
Yes.
But I can see where he can become dangerous. But right now he's good. He's needed because it talks about being a man.
That's how they start.
I think he's more positive than negative. But we're not going to Tate just yet. I want to get Michael's perspective on the concept of the charismatic leader. Being based in Ukraine and everywhere you've been, you have Volodymyr Zelensky, who has been propped up by basically the world as the hero. And then you have Putin as the villain, right? These are both, let's just call it charismatic leaders who have won over the hearts and minds of their people. Whether Putin still has that same status in Russia, I don't know. He's been voted sexiest man in Russia. How many times you're running, And I think his approval ratings is constantly 90%. But his point is he's been in power for over 2 decades. What have you experienced, this charismatic leader, these themes that we're talking about, being based in Ukraine? What insight can you give us on the inside as to what Ukrainians think about their leadership, as to what Russians you're saying about Putin, and maybe the stories that we're just not hearing in the news?
Yeah. Putin definitely deserves a Academy Award for being the greatest bullshit artist on the planet. I mean, the way he can just spin everything and just deny everything he's done. And listen, we're rebuilding like half of Bucha right now, where all those things happen and all those massacres happen. I've personally met everybody in Bucha. I ask them, for example, who did this to you? Who killed your wife? Who killed your children? It was all Russians. But Putin's able to twist that and say that it was staged by Americans, that the Ukrainians did this to make them look bad, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a master manipulator,
yes.
Right? And since he controls
he's former KGB. I mean, this is kind of in his blood, right? I mean,
he controls state television
media,
completely,
right?
To a point where every single Russian girl that I know can't see my posts on Instagram about what I'm doing in Ukraine. I mean, they have no idea what's going on. They just see what they want them to see. So it's easy to brainwash a whole population if you don't give them access, right, to the truth. So, it's a lot of confusing messages. Zelensky, on the other hand, had he not been an actor, it's a lot of similarities actually in the journey, if you think about where I went through, right? Had I not been a nightlife. You can always trust in God's like master plan for your destiny, right? Had I not been a nightlife guy for 20 years, everyone's like, what's a nightlife guy doing what you're doing now?
Yeah.
There's no chance I'd be able to do what I'd be doing. And had I not been a builder, it's like the nightlife taught you the ability to like network and, right?
Yeah.
Come to the club tonight,
Right.
How about now? Come
Hosting,
to the
hospitality, making people feel welcome and warm. That's in your DNA.
How about come to that warehouse and volunteer to help Puerto Rico right now? Right? It's the same exact job, right? How about instead of, hey, you want to come buy a $10,000 bottle for Tiesto, why not donate $10,000 to help people, right? But
Like what you did there. Yeah.
I like that.
It's really a similar thing. The logistics, scheduling hundreds of trucks and planes and containers and everything. Yeah, to do a decade of running construction jobs, right? That I was doing before as a developer and having crews of 200 people, whether they're hammering something or whether they're loading pallets. It's all like a part of management. So that skill set that I learned to be able to execute what I do today is the exact same analogy than Zelensky. Had Zelensky not been a comedian and an actor and starstruck and all of that, he wouldn't have the ability to go on TV and literally like every minute say, look what this guy's doing to us. You have to stop him. I need weapons.
Yeah.
If you don't give me the weapons to stop him, he's going to take Kyiv, then he's going to take Poland, then he's going to take Finland. He'll never stop. So
That's what he's basically saying about Putin.
And honestly,
It's the truth.
he's really correct.
probably.
I assure you, if Putin would have got Kyiv, if they would have made it past Bucha and he would have got Kyiv,
He doesn't
right
just
now,
stop there.
We live in a very different world right now.
Really?
We live in a very different world. Yeah, they would have taken
So you're
the
saying
whole
that,
USSR would have been back in business.
You're giving Putin the Academy Award for acting like he's not doing evil things, whereas Zelensky deserves credit for his background as an actor, comedian, to kind of galvanize the world in his favor, to his side for to win the war in Russia. That's kind of the analogy that you're using right there.
Imagine I live in Kyiv right now.
Yeah.
You guys see on the news a missile that hits a shopping mall. I literally drive in our car with our teams the next day, and we're speaking and seeing it, and the fire is still like smoking, and I'm watching this with my own eyes. And then you have Putin going, "Wasn't us. It's the Ukrainians that did this
to themselves."
Right? I mean, it's beyond like an Academy Award. It's just,
of course,
and it's unimaginable to think, and that's why America is great with this, freedom of speech. There is no freedom of speech there. What they see in Russia right now is a completely different story.
Yeah,
and this you were talking about people getting arrested. I mean, look what's happening. Look at our freedoms. We have. Russia yesterday announced that they were going to basically do a draft now because they're losing the war, right? And they're just going to basically take 300,000 people. You're going to, kill some Ukrainians now because they're Nazis, right? Even though the president's Jewish. Come on.
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
And they rebel, right? There's a little movement in Moscow, and right? And what did you hear what just happened? They arrested like 1,200 people. They immediately drafted them.
Did they arrest the actual people who were supposed to be called into war? Because I heard that it was a lot of mothers basically saying, I don't want my kids to go to war, that they were the ones revolting, and then they're the ones kind of feeling the wrath of the Russian police.
So in America, if you don't like something, you go out with a sign and you yell and da-da-da. In the worst case scenario, they're going to like push you back or something. Over there, you hold a sign, say you're against the war, you're immediately arrested, and now you're going to go fight in the war.
Wow.
They're going to basically just put you in the front line and get you killed.
Yeah. So those are the risks of protesting. Like even like when you walk out your door in America, you're like, all right, today I'm going to go protest. Some people like to burn stuff down. We know what happens. You know, we're not going to go down there and what happened after the George Floyd and BLM and all that. But in Russia, you walk out your door and you're going to go protest. You know that you might end up in jail that day. Furthermore, you might end up the exact opposite situation. Now you're fighting in the army. So that's basically the outcome of basically protesting in Russia.
They're just going to kill you by throwing you in the front lines with no weapons, probably.
Crazy. Anyway, the whole concept
in Cuba,
of these...
that happens. In Cuba, that happens too. 90 miles away.
Yeah.
90 miles away. I mean, not to that extent, of course.
Yeah.
But they have, a political figure speaking at the square, and they force you. They bus you in, and they say, listen, we're going to feed you, and we're going to bring you in, and you got to cheer. We're going to give you all little flags, and it's going to be really good for TV. It's propaganda.
Yeah, propaganda is the only way you take over any nation. Shit,
We've got
Hitler did it.
some super chats. Anyway, listen, this is all what I would call framing. I want you to understand who these three fine gentlemen are to give you a little perspective of, before we move into our topics about money and career and success and obviously relationships and dating and all that. But hopefully you guys all have a deeper perspective of who these gentlemen are and a deeper, fonder appreciation for our freaking country, United States of America. So that's that. So thank you guys for sharing each of those stories. I think it's kind of, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, I think it's kind of sickening what's happening with younger people today, not appreciating America as much as immigrants or the kids of immigrants, because you're fortunate enough to be born here with a, proverbial silver spoon, and you have the ability to basically say, I hate America, and nothing will happen to you.
Right.
So that's problematic. Natalia, weigh in on this. Super chats, comments. Go ahead before we transition to the next story.
So we do have some super chats. I know we had one that said Tate for president. So that was one. I had to throw that one out there. And then we also had another one by Joey Para, $20. Thank you. He said, shout out Ricardo Aguilar. Sauce, great show.
Thank you, brother.
As always, brother. Valuetainment, number one. That was some of our super chats at the moment.
Thank you. Keep them coming.
Yes.
We're going to be answering your questions throughout. Go ahead, Nat.
Yeah, make sure to like the video. And then we also got one more that just came in. It says from Chris, $5. Thank you. He said, my 14-year-old son can disassemble an AR-15 and put it back together. 25 years old to buy it. Bruh, it's all about safety and training. Shaking my head.
No, and listen, what was his name?
Chris.
Chris, brother, I totally agree with you, but that's your son. That's not all the sons in America.
Exactly.
I get it. I'm telling you, I get it. I've taught my wife how to shoot an RA. You seen Nat has it on Instagram. I love to. I'm a freaking gun fanatic. Yeah. She knows, and Sauce, but I get that. But that's you can't live in a world where only the way you live is the way the rest of the world is gonna live. That's not how things work. So we have to have a general basis. I totally agree with Chris. And by the way, congratulations to you for having your son being able to assemble and disassemble an AR-15. Good for you. 100%. That's good, because he's going to be able to defend his family one day. But that's not every kid in America. There's 360 million Americans, right? Like, we're not all going to do that.
It's like driving a car, I've been teaching my kid how to drive a car since he was 12. Should a 12-year-old drive a car?
No.
Hell no.
No, I agree with you.
All right.
Like I said.
Look at you guys getting along over here.
Yeah.
No, it's just because everything, the reality is this. There's two sides to every story, and then there's the middle, right? And there's
black and white, and there's usually a gray area.
There has to be somewhere where you can meet with somebody that has the opposing view from you, right? I do not agree with no ARs, because the military has tanks, and the military has jets, and they have planes, and they have all this, and they have night vision. We don't have that. My little AR-15 against them, but at least I have a standing chance, not with the 9mm. That's what I don't agree with that. But I do agree with it. A kid should not be running around with an AR-15. You got to be able to meet in the middle somewhere with every topic.
See, people think that Ricky's extremist. He's a logical actor.
I'm very logical when it comes out to things, and because I do have them in my control, I understand their power. You know what I mean? I understand that. Yeah, and you gave me that at 18 years old, and like I said, good job, Chris. But that's not every kid in America.
That's not every kid.
It's
all
not
right,
every
cool.
kid in
Respect
America.
on that. All right, let's transition into a little bit more of a lighthearted topic. That's relationships, dating, sex, marriage, all that fun stuff that comes with that. And we're going to talk about the concept of being the leader of the family or the head of the household and being the breadwinner. Okay, so here's a story to kind of help us set the tone here. We're all familiar with the actor Ryan Reynolds and his lovely wife, Blake Lively, but he got into some serious trouble with his wife for basically spending $3 million to buy to become a part owner of a Welsh soccer team without telling his wife. Now, I don't care how rich you are. If you're going to be spending $3 million, you may want to run that by your wife. So he got into some hot water with that. She was freaking pissed, and apparently, quote unquote, we're still working through that one. So I want to open it up to the gentleman here, and you're not married right now, but if half the stories about you, Capone, are true, you've had a lot of relationships in your day. But let's talk about the concept of being the leader of the household, the head of the household, and having to consult with your significant other. So just real quick, who is the leader and breadwinner in your household?
I am.
Period.
Yeah, and I think that's bullshit. I think that's probably just to get some headlines.
Some headlines right there?
I don't think she's pissed at him. That's $3 million for Ryan Reynolds is not that big of a deal. It's probably not that big of a deal for Blake Lively. And for buying a team, I mean, I'm sure that's just a headline.
Gotcha. So that captivated you. Ricky, who's the leader and the breadwinner in your household?
Well, me and Erica run the business together. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, I'm still because we believe in God and we believe in the Bible, and we're not denominational, but we both have Bible study, and I'm the leader of the household because that's what God assigned me to do. But no, we both grind every day. We get up and we grind together and we work and we hustle. But she still gives me my place, and I give her respect. Whenever when it comes down to making decisions, she'll be like, "Babe, whatever you said." Like, we literally just had a conversation 30 minutes before we started. "Babe, this is what's going on with the situation, investment we got going on." And she's like, "Babe, whatever decision you make, I'm going to support you." But at the same time, as a man, you have to have a track history of making good decisions, because if you don't, then you can't expect that trust from your spouse. So there's got to be a level of whenever we're going to make a decision, or whenever there's a decision that I want to make, I run it by her. I'm not asking for permission, but like, "Babe, this is what I got in mind. What do you think? Give me your perspective."
Yeah.
And because I do respect her, then her perspective will play a role. And half of the time I'm like, "Dude, I never saw it from that point of view. But you know what? You're right. I think I'm gonna hold off, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that." So I think it's good to have that conversation, especially in our case. Obviously, my case is a little bit different because we're both grinding together. Not if you're the breadwinner of the house. Hey, bro, you're the one making the money. You make the decisions. You know what I mean? That's the way I look at it. I'm old school, But in this case, she's working with me, and so that's why we go.
So you would say it's 50-50 in your household,
as far as what?
As far as making the financial decisions and basically who the breadwinner is.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, because God has that patriarchy. She respects it, and I respect that, and it's my place. But yeah, we'll consult each other. I mean, we don't ever ask each other for permission, but we consult each other when we want to make.
So for major financial decisions, who do you think has the final say in your household?
I don't want to take credit from Erica, but I will tell you, like, if I'm firm about something, I'm like, "Babe, I think this is the way you need to go." She'll be like, "Okay, no problem. If that's what you think, then I know you're going to do what's best for our family."
So you wear the pants in your family?
No, of course I do, because I'm the man. You know what I mean? But there is that level of. But she gives me that place. But I've earned that place too. A lot of men want respect and want to be treated royally, and don't treat their wife royally. Don't take care of their wife. Or you can't do that, bro. That's not how this shit works. So she gets her place. I respect her, whatever she wants. As far as there's no. I don't tell her no. You know what I mean? And so therefore, whenever I feel firm about something, she's like, "Okay, but whatever you think is right, then let's go with that."
Got it. And
how about you, Adam?
What about me?
How about you? Are you
single, looking for someone whose bills I could pay? What am
Hey, I want to say that I'm very proud of you, Ben. I've seen you. I've been doing entertainment for a very long time, and I've seen you rising up the ranks, and you're fucking natural. You're doing good. This is really cool, man. Yeah. And is this an old bank? Because
this is a bank building. This is a vault. This is a Chase Bank. These are safety deposit box that have been signed by some pretty prominent figures.
Pretty cool.
And Chase Bank next door pays us rent. Talk about that. Chase Bank pays valuetainment rent. How about that?
Yeah.
So respect to PBD on that one, right?
All right.
But you know what? That's right. I am proud of you, George. I mean, I'm proud of you,
thanks.
George. Adam, he's going to be a very lucky man whenever you find the right one.
Thank you, bro. Yeah. I'm going to be a lucky man.
He's going to be very lucky.
Thank you, bro. Michael, you've been... You kind of alluded to the fact, obviously, the party world, you've had a lot of ladies, but you said that you're married to basically your work these days. You're successful. I'm sure there's a lot of women who would love to end up with Michael Capponi. Where do you see yourself, marriage, kids, family? What's on the horizon for you?
There's one soulmate that at some point in time will reunite. Until then, I'm just really focused on what I do. But I will say, based on your conversations, in my experience in the relationships that I've had, there's the women that I paid for everything, and they were basically almost in a pet category. Mm-hmm. They're like in the house, and they're here you go, honey. You want the credit card,
Like a dependent.
Exactly. And there was also, like in the Torah, the kenedgo, which is one compensates for what the other is lacking. And there's like this merged partnership, yin-yang. Yeah. And then that, you like coexist, you create everything together. And every dinner conversation is, how you're going to build something together. And then you look at that partner as your equal, and that is the partner that actually you don't cheat on, that you don't have, because she's equal to you.
Right.
Yeah.
And if it's just some girl that's sitting at the house running up the bills on your money, right? Eventually you lose respect for her. She loses respect for herself.
So
true, man. It's crazy how true that is.
Again, living in Miami, I mean, I'm not just going to keep beating a dead horse. You've been around some very big name people, successful people, prominent people. a lot of successful men that have had very beautiful women around them. If you could kind of give some advice to young people out there from what you've seen, what relationships work the best, or still have like lasted the test of time, like, you know, they're still married or it's still going well, or the family dynamics is working, versus it was some hot chick, it didn't work. Like, what have you seen? What kind of have you extrapolated from the relationship you've seen in Miami?
I mean, superficial outer material relationships will only, you know, last a little bit moment in time, right? So you have three major components that I've learned over the years that are very simple. One is, right, the communication and energy, right? Like how you hold someone's hand, how you kiss, how you connect, right? That's like base. You have to have that. If you have that like harmony and energy and all that is beautiful, great. You're only 1/3 of the way there.
That's number one. I'm writing it down.
And you can have that with a multitude of people, but not that many, right?
Gotcha.
It's like the second thing you need to do is have the compatibility in each other's environments, right? Sometimes society doesn't allow that, right? So there's, you know, one person's in one like society kind of image and the other person's parents don't like them, or right? There's things that just don't like really fit well. And once you get past that, right, compatibility in each other's environments, right? So let's take my lifestyle, for example. Can you come with me to the White House and meet a president? Can you put on a black tie gala and speak, you know, on the podium? Can you come to the United Nations with me and be Eleanor Roosevelt? And can you come to Haiti with me and sleep, you know, on a cot in the mud, right? Can you do all of that? So that would be compatibility in each other's environment. If you don't get past that, you're going nowhere. The third one is divine timing. And some people, the divine timing is off. It's just, you know, you're in a different place than somebody else is. You know, that happens a lot. It's happened with me today. My divine timing is I feel the world is going through massive global changes and I need to like dedicate 99.9% of my time to being there.
Wow.
And if I was in a relationship today, I wouldn't be going to Puerto Rico tomorrow, then Dominican Republic on Monday, and then Bermuda on, you know, Wednesday, and I would be able to be spending 7 months in Ukraine because I'd have responsibility to a relationship and a partner. So I've consciously chosen, right, to dedicate all of myself to the work because I think it's really important. So that's doesn't mean that I can't meet tomorrow somebody that has the most incredible connection with, and the compatibility in the environment thing is all perfect, great.
Yeah.
But the divine timing isn't. Because it's not happening in this timing.
Timing is everything.
It's very interesting what he just said, and he's like a fucking yogi. So so respect. But what I'm saying is it's very important what he just said in the way of, and everybody at home, you know, this is what you want to do in life. I think is not only make money and be the guy and have the girl and all these things, but what he's doing is he's gone through that already. And he's kind of, you got to be really courageous and you got to have real balls to just drop all that shit. All that material shit, everything, just drop it and go to somebody that needs help and go and help those people. That's what he's doing. So respect to you for doing that.
Absolutely.
I wish I was there in my life. I hope to get there one day in my life, but I'm still bound to some material things. I'm still trying to be that, you know, trying to get up that ladder and get up that ladder and get up that ladder. And you know, actually I enjoy getting up that ladder, and when I'm done enjoying getting up that ladder, I want to be the yogi.
Yeah.
Let me follow that with something. So I've been studying Kabbalah for about 12 years.
Which is the Jewish mysticism, correct?
Jewish mysticism. And the fundamental teaching of it is, in the beginning, the young souls receive for the sake of themselves, right? It's like a child. You bring your child to Toys R Us. Mommy, I want this. I want that. I want this. Can I have this? Right? It's a little child. I want this girl. I want this Ferrari. I want this house. Da da da.
Yeah.
Right? It's like let's
Kid
call
in the
that
candy store.
Let's call it elementary. Junior high is now I'm established. I have my family. I want to make sure my kids are going to college. I want to make sure that my family is taken care of. Right? And you know what? If I got a little bit left over, I'll give 5-10% to some charities and da-da-da. When you start getting into being older and having that, now it's I'm going to use all of my power and all of my wealth to make the world a better place. Start looking at some of the great billionaires that we have on the planet today. They've already signed an agreement that when they die, they're giving back everything.
Yeah, the billionaire pledge.
Right?
Of course.
So these are people that understood that sometime before they incarnated or something, they're going to be gifted with all these things. You'll be able to create all these things. But it all serves the greater good, right? So all of this comes down to, like the Kabbalist, like Rabbi always says, when you die, what are you going to tell God? Huh? You go up there. What are you going to tell God you did? Huh? You slept with 1,000 women. You built 20 buildings. Huh? You think this is interests of God?
Mm-hmm.
You become right back down. So the whole of this, there's nothing wrong with building. You actually I needed to build everything to be able to get to, where I was able to be able to do this. It's build, build, build. At Hinduism, it's actually the first 25 years, right? You learn and grow. The second, you build and establish. And then the last portion is you start giving away and shedding and preparing, right, for the thing. So you're 40, I'm 50. So you got another 10 years of building. And then after that, it starts becoming receive for the sake of sharing. You take this bottle and you clip the cap and it rains. If there's no holes here, as soon as it's filled up, it's going to overflow. If you want to create a fountainhead system with the universe, you make little holes in it and you give everybody a straw. And then the rain will endlessly feed everything, right? That's the flow that you have to create.
Michael, is this why they tell you you're not allowed to study the Kabbalah until you're 40 years old? Because with age comes wisdom, and this is sort of, I don't know if it's 40, is that the right number? Walk me through that.
Yeah, I mean, some Jews have taught that over the years. I think it's, just like anything you build a house, you first pour the concrete and you have a foundation and then you build columns, right? These are all the aspects of the tree of life. And then, and once it's just like a tree, right? Mm-hmm. Roots, without really good roots, a tree, you have a lot of hippies that are way too loose, right? Whoa, man, whoa! Wherever the wind blows, they go, right?
Because there's no foundation.
Have great spirit and great love and heart and all that, right? But they're just not stable enough. They're not direct enough, right? So you first have to have your foundation, then your trunk, then you blossom, right? And once you blossom, then you can give fruit to everybody else.
Love that
Until
analogy.
you build yourself and solid, you can't give anything.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the most
weigh in on
important
that,
thing.
Rick? No, it's crazy to hear him. Not crazy, but it's interesting to hear that because it's kind of what Pat teaches us a lot. But my dad told me since we were kids, if you build your house on sand, the wind will blow it away. And it goes back to the concept of what he's saying is just having, and not only that, but it put things in as I mature and get older, it's just crazy to hear him because I'm preparing for that because I do want to get into philanthropy. Everybody's like, what are you doing after PhD, after you're done building? I'm like, dude, I want to go to Africa and give, drinking water to kids. It's just crazy but it comes natural. Like he's saying, you go through stages of life where you start to envision yourself giving back, because, you live comfortable. I live in the Beverly Hills, the area that I live in. Ferrari, Rolls Royce, Bentley, G-Wagon. I've had it all. I traveled all over the world, but it's not fulfilling to a certain extent until, when I gave away 115 laptops away or 120 laptops away to kids in my neighborhood, give away shirts, 500 shirts. I never felt more alive than when I did that. When I'm driving my cars, I don't feel that. I enjoy it, but it's so temporary, and everybody should. I'm not trying to take everybody should because it's a beautiful thing to have, and it's fun, and you need to go through that phase of your life. But to going back to Michael's point, it's great. Those thoughts have never came to my mind like they come now. Man, I want to give back. I want to have more so I can give more. Yeah, of course. That's but he's right. You need to build because right now, even though I'm 7-figure income, but I can't do that right now. I can't just get up and go. Something as I'm hearing, I'm like, dude, I got to grind harder. Because not only do I have to be able to give back, I have to be able to live as well. And to be able to be away for 7 months, you have to have income and you have to have influence in order. I'm sure that I would take a huge guess by assuming that there's people that are he found donors or people that have money and power. Say, hey, come look what I'm doing. I'm assuming, right? You have to have influence. So if you don't make money, you don't build something, you have no influence. You can never get to this stage. You know.
But when do we say enough? Because we're making money, right?
Right.
When do you say you have enough money? Because it sounds like you have enough money. And I I'm sorry, let me clarify. I meant like because at that point I would want to retire and do what he does full time for the next 20 years. Does that make sense? Yeah.
I don't know if that's what I meant to say. Like, I do what I can right now, right? But I'm saying to like fully step away from a business and be able to have that and still be able to live for 20 years and continue to do. I don't want to do a temper like, I'm going to work for a year, then come back for a year. I want to be able to dedicate.
You're
my
saying
life to
you're
that.
on that. You're transcending on that direction,
On that
but you're
direction.
not there yet.
Not to be able to.
But at least you have a goal
away.
in mind of where you want to get to.
I'm in the same point in many ways, right?
Yeah.
Like I always think to myself, okay, I want to make X amount of money, and then I get to that amount of money, and then I'm like, oh no, that's not the amount. I want to make X amount of money, and what you do is you get caught in this vicious cycle of it's never enough. You buy bigger things, you buy more expensive cars, more expensive houses, and more debt, and then you start getting into that rat race where you're never satisfied.
Yeah.
And what he's saying is like.
So
or a sign. You get a sign at some point, and I will get it that says "fuck it all."
So when did that? I'm actually interested. So when did that happen for you? Like what he's talking about. At what point do you say, "Okay, now I'm ready to do this"?
I think it was gradual. I think Jim Carrey says it best. Right? I wish everybody could be a celebrity so they could see how having it all doesn't mean anything. I mean, I lived in an $8 million house on Sunset Island with 2 boats in the backyard and all the fancy cars and the different lovelies every night and all of that. And you look at me today, living a much more humble life, doing what I do. I mean, the amount of fulfillment and love and happiness, it's not even in the same hemisphere. So those things really...
But when did that come to you? When was it like that point that you're like, okay, I think I'm prepared to do something like that?
Yeah, I think it was like in stages, right? I used my nightlife ability to help causes part-time, right?
Oh, okay,
so like 9/11
it.
happened, I'd get everybody to do something for 9/11 because I knew everybody in nightlife. Same with Katrina, same with, those things. So, but all my money was coming from nightlife. Then when I became, in real estate and Haiti happened and things like that, my construction company would pay for the foundation stuff, and it was like sponsored by Capone Group, right? And eventually over time, when there was so many different disasters that were happening, there was just like my meditations were, you can't do both anymore. Couldn't be in Ukraine walking a job site with a pregnant woman talking about when her kitchen cabinets are going to be delivered, right? It's just not like possible. It's one or the other. It became too big, the responsibility. So you have to ask yourself, at that stage, what's more important, right? Making some extra, $1 million building someone's house, or being in Ukraine, extracting, people that are, literally on the verge of death. So when you start making those proper decisions, you get in the flow, right? It's almost like God gives you this an endless amount of support from everything. And so that's it.
So are you saying, to clarify, I don't mean to interrupt you, so are you saying that, you said you go through the building stage and then through those, I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly, because like I said, I want to prepare to do that, right? Yeah. So I want to have the idea in my mind. And then eventually with the support that you have from the people that you've met combined with what you've built is what allows you to do what you eventually want to do. Is that kind of what I understood?
Yeah. So in the earlier stages, it was all private business. I was basically businessman that did some charitable work. You do that for a couple of years, and then it's businessman that does a lot more charitable work, and now it's businessman that founded his own foundation, but doesn't have overhead because his private companies pays for the foundation's overhead, right? Because it doesn't collect money from the outside yet.
Oh, got it.
Right, and then later it's the private companies self-fund the foundation like a family foundation. And then eventually you have to figure out how the foundation can become sustainable.
Right.
And then you have to start, really going full time and everything. But
okay, got it.
It's interesting because there is another side of me also. There's another side of me that wants to not go so deep down there, so deep into philanthropy, do some philanthropy, but that just wants to travel, wants to have passive income, and wants to enjoy and travel the world, and not in a materialistic way like the yachts and all these things, but wants to go and travel and go with the tribes, not so much be building a community for the tribes. Maybe you can do that too, but just travel and have this lifestyle where you can travel, explore the world, because there's a big part of me also that thinks the world is fucked up and it might not be around for humans. It'll be around for whatever else comes next, but explore and really enjoy life to its fullest and take advantage of all the different things that life has to offer, all the different cultures, all the different places. And I wish I could do both. I wish I could split myself and do both at the same time. But I think eventually the perfect life for me would be to do them 50-50, to be giving back as much as I enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you what, this is a perfect segue to one of the things I always say, that there's these 6 principles of wealth that I always talk about them. Like, you got to have a game plan for your money. Then you need to basically make sure you're not losing, drowning in debt. Then you got to save, you got to invest, you got to protect it. And then to get to the point, if you can do these 6 principles of wealth, the 6th principle is what I call your chillin. And chillin is when you own your time. You can come and go as you please. You don't have to wake up. You don't have to be anywhere. You can do whatever you want with your time. You own your time. Whether that's having $1 million or $10 million or $100 million, that's up to you to figure out what that amount is. But when you get to that point, you can own your time. You can own your free time. I've asked, I can't tell you how many thousands of people, when I used to do a lot of man on the street stuff, what would you do if you had this amount of money? And everyone has the exact same answers. They want to basically travel. Who the fuck doesn't want to see the world? Yeah. Right? Number 2, you want to pursue a passion. So for me, this isn't my full-time job. I work in finance. This is something I'm passionate about. I want to give back to young people and help them understand money and relationships and life a little bit better. Number 3, speaking of Michael, is you want to donate your time and give back to causes you care about. And then that's sort of the coup de grace, is to leave a legacy, whether that's through your kids, whether it's through your business, whether that's through philanthropic endeavors, being a humanitarian. But that is the ultimate goal. Everyone says you got to know your why. What's your why? What's your why? What's your why? I think Simon Sinek, got famous because of that. Yeah. But I call it basically owning your time and being chillin'. Anyway, Nat, before we move on, is there anything we need to address, or can I move on to the next topic?
Can I pop in one more thing?
Yes, sir.
So the goal here is not that every single human being, has his own foundation, when he's 50. That's not really what it's about. What it's about, on a very deep spiritual level, right? We all came from one, right? From God, right? Split and came into like the particles. The souls got separated, right? And then we have to go back, right? To oneness, right? That's basically the journey of our souls. And our sole purpose as souls is actually to help one another get back to oneness, right? So any small act of kindness, whether it be seeing someone on a street corner and just giving them a hand and motivating him for the day to maybe like shift something, or helping someone, or just speaking to a friend that wants to commit suicide and like motivating him to like want to live again, right? All those acts of kindness are really more important than having your own foundation or charity. It's not about how many people you help. It's that, is your life revolving around, right, continually assisting people in any way to be the best that you could be, right?
That's a pretty interesting. Yeah. I've never heard that perspective before. I like it.
Yeah,
I like
We're
it.
changing Ricky one.
No. I'm not. No. Wait,
Let's move on to our next story
the
real quick, because we've got basically a little less than an hour left, and there's like 5 more stories that I want to get into, and then we'll hopefully get into some super chats. But I do want to get your reaction to a video that our founder, CEO, Patrick Bet-David shot yesterday. And since we're on the concept of relationships, I don't want to open up any open wounds or any sore spots here, but it's the concept of, if you're going to be in a relationship, the concept of protection and the concept of a prenup. Okay, so I want to get men's perspective on a prenup. Something tells me when I have women on the panel next week, I'm going to get their perspective on this prenup. So I think it's like a 1-minute clip from Pat. You can play it at 1.5. But here, let's get a reaction on the other side to the concept of a prenup. Go ahead.
But I agree what he said there. I agree what he said. My entire MO with nuptial agreements is to prevent future arguments. Marriage is very, very, very hard. But to be married and to have a kid is very hard, let alone 2 or 3 or 4. Then throw in in-laws, throw health issues, throw travel, throw taxes, throw finances, throw market change, throw people getting fired, throw all of those things in there and say, hey, go ahead, make your marriage work. No wonder first marriages, divorce ends up at 41% of marriages end up at a divorce. No wonder second is 60, third marriages are 73, because it's hard. But if we do it right up front, we got a fighting chance of making our marriage work. So 2 things, if you do want to get the PD.
That's PBD. Anyway, so we're going to get into money after this, but we're going to stay right here on relationships. What Pat said basically is the concept of a prenup is an insurance for future arguments, future debates. Basically, some stats for you guys at home. The average marriage lasts 8 years. 41% of first marriages end in divorce. 60% of second marriages end in divorce, and 73% of third marriages end in divorce. So
it goes up.
It goes up every time you get married, stats wise. I know you're on your second marriage, but I think there's a 100% chance that will work. I've met Erica; she'll slit your throat. Have you ever thought about leaving her? We understand that.
Holy shit!
I guess you're married. You haven't been married.
I'm not married. And
sorry.
I'm doing a prenup as we speak.
You're doing a prenup as we speak. You are married. But you've been, I don't want to put your stuff out there. Is this your first marriage, second marriage?
No, I'm divorced.
You've been divorced.
I was married. I have 2 children from my previous wife.
Yes.
She's a very cool person. It didn't work out for a million different reasons.
Yeah.
And I have a fiance now, and she's much younger than me, and a lot of people are like, why the fuck would you want to get married again?
Yeah.
And I would want to get married again because I think I found the one. You know, you feel this feeling inside. You're like, you know, this person understands me. She knows all my dirty laundry. She knows, you know, all the good and bad. Mm-hmm. And she's cool with it, and I'm cool with her, and I want to take this journey on with her. But saying that, I'm not stupid. I can either let the government divide my stuff if this doesn't work out, or I can have a contract beforehand where I am, you know, dividing it. Because basically, if you don't have a prenup, you're letting the government be your the government is the person that's dividing your things.
Yeah.
And the government's just like, I'll do it the easiest way, just 50-50 or whatever. They don't care.
Yeah.
And I've worked very hard in my life. And I have no problem sharing my wealth, but it just doesn't seem fair to get married and then 2 years down the road, I have to divide all my assets. And I know you can do premarital stuff and so on and so forth, but it's just a pain in the ass. You should just have a piece of paper that's very black and white. And actually, she's the one that told me, do a prenup.
She told you that?
She told me, do a prenup.
Shut up.
She also told me to get a vasectomy. Which I did. She drove me to it. So that's one of the reasons I'm marrying her, because she's like, I don't love you for your money. I don't want to have kids. I don't want to do this whole thing. I just think you're super cool. I love you to death. And you think I'm super cool and you love me to death. And let's do this. Get a prenup so you don't feel that, you know, I'm going to try to take you for anything, or secure your family, secure your kids so they don't look at me as, you know, the money hungry stepmom. But she did that.
Wow. So you're going through the prenup process right now.
Right now.
Right now.
Is
like
she
right
part of
this.
it? Is she part of like kind of helping determine like what is the agreement?
With the prenup, what you got to do is both parties have got to put down their, you know, financial affidavit. They got to show what each party has.
Right.
Each party's got to go to an attorney and kind of figure that out. And then, you know, you get together and in her case, you know, she doesn't have much, you know, she's starting out, she's a real estate agent, she's a badass. I'm sure she's going to have a lot, but right now she doesn't have a lot. And I've gone through this roller coaster ride a while already, and I have a lot more stuff, and that stuff I want to, you know, protect.
And if she wasn't willing to sign a prenup, would you marry her?
Hell no.
Straight up.
No.
And you have these adult conversations, these crucial conversations with your fiance.
I had an evil, wicked stepmother. And when my father worked his ass off. He worked so much he died of stress. So, and my stepmother took everything. She didn't even have any kids with my stepfather. She took everything, and that was a 6-year family court fight, my siblings and I, against my stepmother, and she took it all.
She still won? She still won?
She won. We came to a settlement, but she left us the scraps of the scraps.
Wow.
And it was just because it was a bad trust. My father left a bad trust. My father loved us to death. My father was a badass. But he fucked up. He did a legal document and it had loopholes. She found the loopholes and she screwed us like we always knew she would. So you learn from your mistakes. I learned from that. And I'm like, I'm not going to let that happen to my kids. Not because of the money thing. I made my own money. It's not only because of money. It's just, it causes so many arguments. It causes so much infighting. It caused all siblings to fight amongst each other. It caused us to hate our stepmother even more than we hated her before. I mean, it just caused a mess.
Right. The emotional stress.
It's
behind
just a lot of stress.
Yeah.
Did you have one in your prior?
No, in my prior, I didn't have one, and you know, I was a lot younger. I was, you know, I married my not high school sweetheart. We didn't go to high school together, but we lived down the block from each other, and we still live next door to each other.
Oh.
Yeah, we're not like best friends, but
okay. Neighbors,
you know, but we're cool. We're cool with each other.
Yeah, and you've got 2 kids with her.
And I have 2 kids with her, and I have a 9-year-old named Julius. He's a badass with my ex-girlfriend. And my ex-girlfriend, to tell you the truth, is I'm in lawsuits with her right now.
Really?
She's trying to take me out like if I was married to her or something, and thank God I didn't. Thank God I never married her, and I knew that I never should. Because I knew the type of personality she was.
Wow.
You know.
So
But
what would
still,
your advice be to young men out there who are just kind of getting their thing going?
either let either the government is going to tell you how you're going to separate your assets, or you can go to an attorney, pay a few $1,000s, if that, and figure out how to divide your assets before you get into it.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's real love, the woman is going to understand completely. If a woman tells you you shouldn't do a prenup with me, then I would second guess that woman.
Yeah, 100%. Well, as you know, I was briefly married, okay? And I said, listen, we'll do this. You know, I don't know how this is going to work, but we're doing a freaking prenup. She goes, yeah, 100%. You've got money. I've got nothing. I'm like, all right, sign right here. We got divorced. It didn't work out. I mean, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But if I didn't have that, or at least that legal document to be like, look, babe, you know, who knows what would have happened, all right? I probably wouldn't be hosting this show right now.
It's not only the woman that gets against you, it's the lawyers.
Yeah.
The lawyers are like, wait a second, I know you don't want much from him, but he has this and this and this and this and this and this, so I'm going to ask for all of it.
You know who usually wins in the divorce?
The lawyers.
The lawyers.
Yeah.
So there you go. You don't want them making money the government. What's your status on prenups? Did you have one when you married Erica? What about your first marriage? What's your thought process?
No. When I met Erica, I had a few things already, but I was younger. We don't talk about that in the Hispanic, not with the, you know, where my parents didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Nobody taught us about that. It's something I learned later on. I would hear them in songs.
Yeah.
But not
like Kanye West.
Yeah. We just don't.
Yeah.
I don't have uncles. My uncles don't have prenups, and it's not
so
because
you're
I don't
saying
want
that this is something that didn't even come up in the conversation.
It just never
Cultural.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's cultural. It just never.
Well, then let me ask you a follow-up question because you built your business with your wife, Ricky. Okay, so there's a difference between being a successful guy who's marrying a younger girl,
of course,
and he has all the assets and she's got nothing. When you married Erica, you're like, listen, we got nothing together. Well, we're going to build this thing together.
It's not that I didn't have anything because I was doing well.
Yeah.
But I just didn't. This business we built together.
That's what I'm saying. This business.
This business we built together. So yeah, there would be no need for it. But even then, even then though, I didn't know anything about them. To be honest with you, I didn't.
Gotcha.
You know, but I mean, going back to where George is coming from, I totally understand. Like, if I was like, let's say we're not worked out with Erica, which babe is gonna work out, don't trip. But if it did, she's already texting me this shit. She's watching.
What?
I know her. So, but if it wasn't, I 100% would take George's, road and say, hey,
gotcha.
no, look,
well, if there's anything like you could appreciate about George is not having the government in the middle of your affairs.
100%, and it makes the most sense because the government's gonna be the referee, and they're not good referees.
Yes.
They're not.
Yeah.
But there is a difference between building something together like you've done with your wife versus
100%.
sort of he's built something.
Yes, it's very.
He's like, come on,
we're
baby, you're gonna go along
We're in
for the
different
ride.
situations.
Same thing goes for probate. Same thing goes for death. All
Yeah.
right? So you want to have things written down. You want to have a trust or will, or you want to have it. You want to have it very clear because if not, the government is going to divide your things as they seem fit to your children or your heirs, or to tax, whichever way it goes. So if you have everything clear and you have everything done, that's the way to do it. Marriage and death.
Yeah.
You definitely got to have paperwork for that.
And one thing I'll say is, I don't know if you're a Republican, if you're a Democrat, if you're a Trump guy, Biden, Obama, whatever it is, you don't want the government in your bedroom and in your business.
It don't matter. It don't matter who it is.
No. All right. Respect. Do you want to give a final word on this when you eventually your soulmate comes to town? The legendary Michael Capponi, prenup conversations. How do you want to maneuver that?
So your stats are accurate, and that's because people marry for the wrong reasons, and most people marry on looks or the ease of lifestyle or whatever. So from the get-go, remember we talked about foundation. The whole relationship was fucked from the very beginning. And it didn't have its proper motives. When you put two people together, they're true soulmates. Not, you have different kinds of soulmates. You have karmic soulmates. That means that you have to learn a lesson from each other in this relationship, and then from that lesson you'll evolve. Everyone gets those in the beginning. Then you have like life partner soulmates. You two can do this work together in this life and have a nice marriage and have nice kids and da-da-da. At some point in time, it gets a little old, the husband there's a little cheating in there. Maybe they kind of like put it under wraps and no one ever really catches anybody officially. And some of them last. And then you have like master soulmates, true soulmates, the other half. With a true soulmate, there's no conversations about prenups. There's no thoughts of others. There's no masturbating and thinking of another girl when you're with them. There's no like porn. There's none of that. It is, I live and breathe you. You're my other half. And we just know. And because we know, there's no doubt. And if you bring a prenup into a true soulmate relationship in the beginning, you're basically saying, there's a little bit of doubt.
Yeah.
In true, absolute faith, there's no doubt.
But
right?
how many people?
I don't agree with that.
What?
You do not agree?
I don't agree.
Michael,
I
you're
think,
going to have three people that might not agree with
No,
you.
no.
Let me ask this question real quick, just to
But
frame
I've
it,
been
and then
in the-
Michael can respond.
I've been in the different relationships.
Yes.
That's why. That's
what I was
yeah.
going to ask you.
Yeah, I
You've
know.
been in a bunch of different relationships, and you know a lot of friends in relationships. If there's 100 friends of yours that are married, how many have that true,
Yeah,
true,
that's
true
that was what I was going to ask.
soulmate relationship?
Because
How many?
that's deep.
How many?
Probably none.
So no, you're talking about
So
an
do-
anomaly.
honest.
So
You're
do a
not
prenup.
talking-
You're not talking about a rule. You're talking about
This
the
isn't
exception.
general advice. I'm just
Yes.
telling you that. But when you see
You're saying
that,
if-
when you have
Can you give a
these,
case example of anyone that you think is like maybe not even a friend of yours? Like, oh, that person. I know a grandmother, my grandpa. Like anyone that has that soulmate situation that you can point to. Because that's, I think, what we're all looking for.
I mean,
here.
there's many. One of them that just died, unfortunately. J.R. Reidinger and Lauren Reidinger. They were like true soulmates.
Who died?
J.R. Reidinger.
No way.
Yeah, just a few days ago and stuff. So
What?
Those two were
And what was his company called? Something America.
Market America.
He died. Holy shit! How old was he? He's got to be in his 50s, no?
60s.
Really? I'm so sorry, but they were soulmates, is what you're saying.
Yeah, so there's many soulmates that are just the paperwork is beyond. But I listen
Yes.
for general advice
Yes.
for the 99% of the population.
he's
correct.
I don't
But-
mean any disrespect.
Yes.
I think it's a very utopian way of thinking. I
Yes.
think that we're just vibrating molecules, right? So we're changing at all times. And though a lot of the reasons people get married and they end up in divorce in the first place is, I don't think for looks or some of the wrong reasons. I think that people fall in love
Yeah.
and they feel that very strong love bond, maybe at a high school or maybe when they're very young, and then they get older and they realize, I don't like the way this person brushes their teeth, and I don't like the way this person does this, and then they start getting used to these people. They start taking them for granted, and then they start moving apart, right? And what he said is a very beautiful thing, and it's a very utopian thing, but we're constantly changing.
Yes.
We're constantly changing as humans, as animals, as the earth, as everything. And though you might think that you're in that perfect relationship and you have this perfect spiritual soulmate, though you might think it, and in your heart, shit happens.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Shit happens. And
Yes.
just when you think that you have that person, the universe punches you in the balls and tells you this isn't the person. And that's a natural thing to happen. You should always have insurance.
Of course. Well, I mean, just going back to the stats, the average marriage lasts 8 years. There's a reason. There's the 7-year itch. You've heard that before, right? So I'm not shocked that it's 8 years. So you might love someone year 1, year 2, year 3, and then next thing you know, 8 years later, I think it's Chris Rock, the comedian, who goes, it's you don't just have to love. He makes an analogy or metaphor with a piece of bread. He's like, you don't just have to love the piece of bread. You gotta love the freaking crust of the mother, and it's not even the crust. You gotta love the motherfucking crumbs on the bottom of the toaster, and that's kind of what the utopian perfect relationship that Michael Capponi's talking about. But very few times that works. Life changes. We all change. We all evolve.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about evolution in a second, but like you said, shit happens.
Yeah.
Let's go to this funny clip right there. You talked about sometimes even if you're soulmates, things happen in a relationship. Cheating sometimes. Can we go to that TikTok video? You have that?
Oh, yes, right here.
Okay, so this is sort of a funny video, but this is when your husband is a billionaire and you caught him cheating. Try it again. All right, let me know when you're going to play it so I can give a better intro. All right, so this is regarding cheating. And if your husband is a billionaire and you caught him cheating, go ahead. Not working? No. Want to save it?
But we probably get the gist of what's going to happen here. When you're a billionaire, you get away with a lot. And if you're broke, you get thrown out of the house. Probably, right? Pretty
much what happens here. I don't know if we could play it. It's actually funnier than we're describing it, but...
There you go. Let's try this one.
Oh, here it is. So let's play that one more time just for context. You're a billionaire and you catch your billionaire husband cheating.
That's awesome.
Basically pretend she's blind, none the wiser. She didn't see nothing, right?
Great.
Hear no evil, speak no evil, see no evil. But there's this concept, especially these days. You talked about your good buddy who you look up to, Andrew Tate. Sarcasm there for you. Yeah. But the concept of being a high value man, you can kind of get away with certain things. I'm talking to some very high value men, established men, basically, playboys, international playboys, been there, done that, have money, have all the wealth, have the success. But so the concept that Andrew Tate talks about is that if you're a high value man, if you're a successful man, if you're a freaking billionaire, there's certain things that your lady will let slide. So should a high value man be allowed to cheat? Ricky, you want to go first?
No. No, because it goes back to what Michael was saying, when there's that, when you find that, and the thing is sometimes, Marvin Del Valle, which is Nat's dad, says it, that, and it's a quote that I use it all the time, and her dad is a very good friend of mine, and he said, the worst thing, the most tragic thing that could happen to somebody is believing in the best moment of their life and not realize it, right? And I think that at the beginning, when me and Eric are going on 6 years of marriage, I can honestly tell you with all the certainty in the world that the first maybe 3 years, I didn't because I don't come from a functional marriage that everybody in my family gets divorced, including dogs and cats. Yeah. Everybody gets divorced. I've never ever. My grandparents were divorced before I was born. All my uncles have kids out of wedlock. I have cousins I don't know. I go to Mexico and I meet new cousins. I'm like, I'm your cousin. I'm like, what the fuck just happened? About true story, by the way. And so
that's what shaped who you are. Is what you're saying.
Yeah. So
what were you going to say about your first 3 years, bro?
The first 3 years, I didn't realize that's what the Erica. What to me it was like, okay, I'm married because I love you, right? Which is kind of like the basic. But then when it took me a while to realize that she was my soulmate. So maybe at the beginning, my answer would have been different. At the first 3 years of my marriage, like, well, bro, look, you're providing, you're doing this. But right now, I can 100% with everything tell you, no, I don't. That's irrelevant because that's the way I feel towards my wife. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, no, that's out the window because of that. Does that make sense? Because you realize you married or you're with your soulmate. It's.
Well, what I'm processing is that it's usually because you said you're at 6 years.
Yeah.
We talked about 7 year itch, 8 years. That's that typical marriage lasts 8 years. It's actually different with you. You said the first 3 years it was a little more flimsy of a marriage, but now it's been 6 years.
It's not so much it was flimsy for her, and it wasn't even flimsy for me. I just never took marriage that serious because it was just a transaction.
Gotcha.
For so long because that's the way I saw it. Huh. My dad's married for a second. My mom's going through a second. Just finished getting a second divorce right now.
Yeah.
Like fucking a month ago. Okay. Does that make sense? So like I didn't see that growing up. I didn't see a good example. So to me it was nothing more than transactional. I love you, you love me. Let's be a big old happy family like fucking Barney, and then and as long as we can be happy, but now I don't see it that way. I see it from a different.
When you were younger, were you more of a cheater?
100%.
Really?
Yeah, because I didn't see it that way. Everything's just a transaction.
Gotcha.
Even including love, it was a transaction. And then my dad, married somebody that kind of like same kind of situation with George's dad. My dad married somebody that he knew none of the family liked her, and the lady, I love her now to death. As ironically, we have a great relationship, but she was a fucking witch the first 10 years of her being married to my dad. So I'm like, dude, you don't even give a fuck that we don't like her. Nobody, like, she doesn't like us, and she makes it very clear. She said, I married your dad, not you guys. Treats us like shit. So what worse example can you have of, somebody saying, hey, I'm going to be selfish and I'm going to marry the person that I want because I want to, and fuck whatever you got going on. So that to me, that's why marriage is transactional. It has nothing to do with souls and all this shit and uniting. But now I see it the way Michael's explaining it now.
I see a new show happening with Ricky. Ricky talks love. And then,
No, I have a
what's
question.
up, Nat?
What was like your switch point? Was it like a situation that happened, or was it just going through struggles together? What kind of change for you?
So that's an interesting. I think what happened. Oh, you asking me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think what happened was, until you embrace somebody's pain, you'll never ever feel for them, right? So I think that what happened was that we went through a situation. Oh, excuse me, and I felt her pain. Like I felt it. Like it was physical to me. I'm like, oh shit, I've never felt this. Like I'm empathetic, but I'm not sympathetic. I really believe everywhere you are in life is because that's what the fuck you chose to do. Right? When I was locked up, I told my mom, don't cry. Don't come. If you're going to come visit me when I was locked up, don't cry. I got myself here. I'm huge on personal accountability and personal responsibility. Huge on it. Stop fucking crying. Does that make sense? Don't cry about it. Don't bitch. Don't nag. I live by that. To this day, I live by that. But when I felt her pain, I'm like, oh shit. Like now it's like, this is different. I've never felt that before. I felt if she was crying or whatever, in just any situation, I'm like, oh, that sucks. Like, I hope you feel better, I love you, but I don't know what the fuck to do for you. But now it's like, oh shit, if she's in pain, I feel it.
Damn.
If she's going through something, I go through it. Like, I don't know why. I'm not asking for it. I'm not one to carry anybody's problems, but that's when I realized something changed. Like, it's almost like God's like, no, bro, this is who you're supposed to be with, and now let me give you her pain too, so you can feel what the fuck she's going through.
Ricky, how old are you?
Value 34.
You're 34.
Yeah.
I
Some growth. Go ahead, George.
I think that in relationships and religion, for instance, they're such general. They're such big.
Yes.
You can have. It's a spectrum, right? So there's people that are in relationships that are non-monogamous. There are people that are in relationships that are super monogamous. And there's everything in between. And everybody it's a different recipe for everybody.
Yeah.
And I'm never going to tell him, just like I wouldn't tell him about religion, oh, I don't believe what you believe in this, and I don't believe what you believe in that. And I don't want him to tell me that either. That's why I didn't like that Tate guy. I just learned about Tate yesterday when you told me, research him a little bit. And he generalized, he stereotypes, he makes himself. He basically says,
I'm the standard.
I'm the standard. You want to be like me, and anything that's not like me sucks.
Yeah.
And that is not cool. You don't do that. The world is very diverse. That's what's beautiful about the world. I mean, imagine just having one color.
No.
How stupid, how sucky would that be?
Yeah.
It's beautiful to have the whole spectrum of colors. And when you realize that, and maybe Tate will realize that one time, and maybe he will use his platform. Maybe he'll get older and he'll start thinking to himself, I'm kind of an asshole. Maybe he'll realize I could be cooler. I could be using my platform for good. I could stop stereotyping and generalizing and deep, making women seem like a second-class citizen to men. And I could be more inspiring, because right now that guy's doing, 60% Donald Trump, maybe 30%, Howard Stern, and maybe 10%, Tony Robbins. He's like this mix where he can inspire, but he's that shock value of Howard Stern, like just for the ratings, he's acting sometimes. And then he's kind of in the Trump way. I mean it in the way of just like, just
hard charging.
It's just, he's going to piss you off. He's going to piss you off in a lot of things you say. He's very charismatic. He's going to make you laugh. But he's feeding on the ego. He's very narcissistic. This guy is all about him. He thinks he's the best.
But go back to the initial question. Should a high-value man have the ability
what
to
is a
kind of play
high-value man? This guy's a high-value man.
Yes. Everyone on the panel is a high-value man. But this concept of like, so again, to go back to the case of the billionaire, and whoever you're envisioning as the billionaire, whether it's fucking Bill Gates in there, or whether it's like some playboy LeBron, whoever you're envisioning as the billionaire.
But I think what George is saying,
should the billionaire be able to just kind of...
No.
But I think
sweep things under the rug. No,
if he's allowed to, if him and his partner have that agreement, and they're cool with it, that nobody else is going to know, that like he might be out on a date, like that guy, right? He might be out on a date with somebody, and maybe his wife is cool with that. You never know. You never know what people are into, and you should respect everybody's freedom to do whatever the hell they want.
Gotcha. Michael, final word on this topic. You've been around the block. You know a lot of successful people. Exactly. Go ahead.
I got a lot to say about this. So when I was, in my power world of illusionary power, many girlfriends that I had, I used my power to basically get what I want. Come on, honey, we love each other. Open relationship. Don't ask, don't tell. What do you care? Don't ask me. It's going to be okay. I love you. I forced that, right?
Really?
I used my powers of manipulation, and I forced that.
And when you say powers, just to be clear, it was status, money, connections,
it's like, yes, a girlfriend is living in a big house as your basic guest, right? Driving one of your cars, right? Not really in a position to argue, right? And what I learned over the years is every girlfriend that I ever did that, it took me a decade just to make peace with them again, and that I had actually really hurt them, and I put them in all kinds of scenarios where they lost self-confidence. So there's a lot of spiritual work that I had to do that, right? Of doing that because of my selfishness, ultimately, right? And I used to think that a powerful man was, you got all the girls, your girl's out of town, let's go out, etc. I used to think that was a powerful man. Now I think that's a jerk off, actually. Mm-hmm. I think I don't even do business with people. I don't even actually allow people to work at the foundation that cheat on like their husbands and stuff and wives, because I don't trust them then. If you're going to be a deceptor
powerful perspective
to your own,
you catch that?
Yeah.
If you're going to wake up next to your wife every day and then deceive her because you have all these other affairs going on, you think I'm going to let you trust you with our foundation, like dollars or aid and stuff, right? You're just not a trustworthy person. So you either walk a straight line, and if you walk a straight line, you have so much true power. And if you look at people who are really powerful, look at their karma. Look at Harvey Weinstein, greatest movie director in the world. I mean, literally made the most amazing movies. Couldn't keep his dick in his pants. Too much ego, too much nihilism. And look what he did to women. And he'll croak and die with a stroke, basically, and have to repeat his life. Clinton was one of the greatest presidents, right? Whatever, it might be controversial. He did a great job running this country, ended it with a blowjob. It like ruined his legacy, right?
Blowjob heard around the world, of course.
Imagine if, people are able to actually stay like true and loyal. And what I will tell you is of all the models that I dated and all of them, no matter how beautiful they were, after like 3 weeks, I was already looking elsewhere. And the one girls that I ever never cheated on anything, it was because I nurtured the garden and made them only that. And by doing that, the closeness is, you're so close, right? That you actually have no other desire. So then it's actually easy. It's like, it's like someone who doesn't want to drink and someone who, is like, has to go to counseling to not drink. When you only look at your wife with love and you think she's the most beautiful girl in the world, then it's going to be much easier to not cheat on her. But if you look at her and you look at magazines and you look at this one and you look at this one and you're on your Instagram all day long and she feels that you're doing that, she might cheat on you first.
Defense mechanism.
And then you're going to catch
her.
Right? And it happens all the time. So my biggest advice to you is if you actually truly want to have a marriage last and work, right, then nurture it and keep it,
intact.
Intact. And if you do that, then you'll get through anything.
Wow.
The idea is to be, 70 years old, you're on that plane holding your wife's hand like, we fucking did it. Wow. That's the goal, not to go through 3 divorces and fight with prenups and all that shit. I mean, I get it. I'm not telling you should do it. I'm just saying if you go about it that way, you're not going to need a prenup because you're both dedicated to making it work.
But
on
let
every
me
level.
ask you, and literally you probably just gave the most profound answer of the day. So kudos to you. But you probably wouldn't have that answer, Michael, unless you did all that stuff in your 20s, 30s, what have you, and you said, hey, looking back at it, probably wasn't that cool for me to do that. But don't you kind of have to go through the shit to sort of get to the gold,
You know that before Buddha received nirvana, he was tested. You can have all the women in the world, Buddha, please, don't don't tune in, right? The dark forces didn't want him to have that experience. You know why he was able to attain nirvana and not go there? Because he grew up as Siddhartha, who had fucked thousands of girls in orgies in the palace as a young emperor, right? So it was more of, I already fucked them all, right? So that experience is important, right? And when we get certain things out of our system and we're mature enough, right? Then we can like really nurture it. A little child that's never seen, like beautiful women before, and he moves to Miami, I mean, it's Candyland. Of course he's going to be, I want this and that, this and that.
Yeah.
So we're speaking to 25-year-olds, right?
Yeah, young men.
Young men, right? And we're speaking to hungry young men who want to go out there, want to make it in life, want to have the businesses, want to have the power lifestyle, want to smoke a cigar and, party on a yacht and do all that stuff. And what I would say to them is do that. Do it. Go for it. Get it all out of your fucking system and end up like that. Or end up somewhere in between, like where I'm trying to get to, or end up like Ricky. Ricky's very focused too, and he knows where he's going. And just remember where you're going. It doesn't. You can fail a million times right now when you're that age, and I failed a million times at that age, and I did stupid shit that I look back on. And I'm like, oh my god, I was a fucking idiot. But being an idiot so many times got me to the point of right now. I know now how not to be an idiot, and I'm still gonna be an idiot. I've still got a lot more time to do stupid shit, and I will do it because I'm that type of person, because I go for it. And people that go for it will fail. And they will succeed.
He's absolutely right. You have to go through the process. Take the Dalai Lama and have him go to live at night, and have him see everybody making out with everybody, spraying champagne and everything. You think he would be judgmental? You think he'd be like, this is garbage? He'd be little children having fun. Let them have fun. They'll grow.
Yeah,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
You have to go through it.
Of course. Yeah, 100%. And by the way, I met my ex-wife at Live, so I understand what it's like to go through it, bro.
That would be so cool to see the Dalai Lama at Live.
He would not criticize it.
Yeah.
It'd be badass.
Let me get your thoughts on this quote. I says that certain women who can make millionaires go broke, and there's certain women who can turn millionaires into billionaires. Yeah. So that's, I mean, you can kind of appreciate that. Your wife, you guys are going for it. You guys are making a ton of money, but it's ultimately it comes down to choose wisely. And before you make your final decision, hopefully it is your final decision, go through some shit and get it all out of your system. All right, speaking of getting out of your system, we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. Then we'll hopefully get some final comments, questions, super chats out there. You talked about the concept of self-improvement, right? And almost like reinventing yourself. Everyone here on the panel has basically reinvented themselves. In my early 20s, I was a jack of all trades, broke as shit, sleeping on friends' couches, and I had to basically make a decision one day and say, all right, dude, you got to wake up and you actually got to do something with your life. And I got a job as a cold caller at a financial firm. 15 years later, the firm is massive. We're great. I'm the VP of sales and the whole thing. But I had to reinvent myself. I couldn't be the exact same person. I very rarely quote Joel Osteen. However, he has a quote where he says, "Where you are now is not where you will always be. Brighter days are ahead." Yep. So I'm talking to somebody here who basically has been like a, gangster Mexican, badass dude who was in jail at 18, is basically in the streets, and you've gone to the stage. The last time I saw you, bro, you were on a stage in Las Vegas at the MGM Grand with Shaq and Nelly and Patrick Bet-David basically presenting at a massive event. Yeah. And, so kudos to you. You've turned your life around. Michael, you've in the nightlife scene, partying, some of the stories that, kind of go accompany with that. And basically now you're a massive humanitarian who has turned his life around, and you're basically donating your time to basically literally changing the world and helping people in need. George, you've been all over the map, as far as relationships, business, life, Grammy Award winner to, restaurateur, to basically having one of the top nightlife places in Miami right now. So this concept of reinventing yourself and changing your habits and changing, they say your network is your net worth. And I assume you're not hanging out with the same people you were at basically gangbanging back in the days. You're not still popping bottles, right? You're still not, doing the.
I'm doing all the same stupid shit.
But the point is that we've all had to grow.
But there's a difference, though. He owns the freaking places.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But you know what? I really don't hang out there that much.
That's what I'm
anymore.
saying. But
It's
you own them. Like it's different.
work for me.
Yeah, it's different.
So
To
George is
work.
maybe the one person on the panel who still kind of
No, because he owns them.
Exactly.
He knows from hospitality. When you work in hospitality, when you work at when you own a restaurant, you don't eat there that much. You've eaten there a million times. You eat when you do eat, it's for quality control. You want to know, okay, how does that?
Yeah, of course.
Bring me a plate, and then the staff, they fuck with you. They're like, oh, the owner wants to ask for a plate. Let's give him a bunch of food and make it really pretty. And I'm like, this is too much. I'm usually like,
you don't need all that. Well, let me get to my question here.
Yeah.
But by the way, anytime you want to invite me in to do a taste testing there, I'm down for it, brother. But basically, there's a lot of young men out there who are basically, maybe they're not exactly happy in the situation they are now, or maybe they're fine, but they want to get it to the next level. This concept of status is a major factor. So I believe that there's 3 forms of status. Like you're broke as shit and you just want to be normal. You're normal and you want to just be doing well, or you're doing well and you want to get it to the highest possible level, right? Everyone here is at the, what I would say phase 3, but you're not stopping, you're not retiring, you're keeping it going. So talk to your younger self out there, the younger self that you talked about, who was more, hey baby, let's, figure that out. But how could young men look into the future, not have a myopic version of themselves and just kind of look, 2 feet in front of them, look, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? How can young men become the best versions of themselves? I'd like to get your thoughts on this. Who would like to go first?
I mean, I can explain.
Go ahead, Michael.
Again. So we did, I'll just dabber into it. So when I started nightlife at a very young age, right, I got a huge ego because I was, the prince of South Beach at 21 and had all the model girls and everything. Dabbled in a lot of drugs. Already had Mercedes, the most beautiful apartment in Miami, boat, all of that. Started smoking heroin. And
oh shit!
I thought it was so cool. And within 1 year, I swear on my life, I spent the blizzard of 95 in New York City from basically Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve, begging, literally in like minus 10 degrees in snow, sleeping in subways. I went that low in life.
You were full on the lowest of the low, homeless at that point. From partying in South Beach, being like the man to that.
It's all recorded. There's many books that have been written on it. And then I had a brain tumor, and then my dad died. Then I had after that go to, multiple rehabs, and, I had to learn to like walk and talk and everything again. And then my reputation was completely destroyed. I was exiled. I had to everything was destroyed, right? The point of why I'm telling you this is today, people ask me, oh my God, your foundation, what made you create that? I say, that shit that happened to me over there.
100%.
Right? So the death of something, right, is the birth of another.
Yes.
Right? It's how God operates. A 5-star general is a 5-star general because he's overcome all these different battles, right, that he wears on his chest, right? If you live in the past and you're like, imagine if I was, my name's Michael Capponi, I have to go to a meeting every single day and drugs are more powerful than me and I take one day at a time, it'd be pretty weak, right? Instead, it's thank you, universe, for these insane, horrible experiences that I've had. But those experiences are now transmuted and made me, right, become something completely different, right? And that's about flipping the switch. So people that are stuck somewhere, right, you just have to learn to flip the switch and make the negative into the positive. And once you do that, then every single negative thing that happens to you becomes a positive thing that happens to you. Then you don't need to camouflage yourself. You don't need a therapist. You don't need Prozac. You don't need to smoke cigarettes all day long because you get while you were stuck, right?
It's crazy, but it's exactly what he's saying. It's like, you look back and you realize that all those fucking horrible things in your life made you the person you are today. And if they wouldn't have happened, you wouldn't be where you are today. And his is a lot more extreme than any of mine, and probably, well, I don't know about yours because you were in jail, but
Pretty bad.
but fuck, I mean, it's going through some hardcore shit.
Of course.
And to the real, the real men of how do you say it? What did he say?
High value man.
High value man. A high value man is a person that can go through that shit, go out the other side of it, and still fucking be alive, still make it, still add to this world, still give something that's a contribution to the earth, to society. Because there's a lot of guys that would have stopped, a lot of guys would have died in the subway.
Oh, yeah.
They would have died right there. Or they would have given up. They would have been like, fuck it, I can't take it anymore. They wouldn't, or they would be somewhere just being like, oh, fuck, I'm a loser. I just think I'm a loser, and they would have killed themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of people are going through with that right now. A lot of drug epidemics, opioid overdose, of course.
And I think to myself, somebody that's going to kill themselves, aside from mental illness, somebody that's going to kill themselves, why don't they think to themselves, if they're that low and they're going to kill themselves, they have they're going to turn their lives into nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Why not just say fuck it? Instead of killing myself, I'll just give soup at the soup kitchen. I'll just hand soup to people. I'll just make myself useful. If I think I'm worthless, at least I can do something.
Add some value
to my life, and then they'll go on.
Great perspective.
Instead of doing what Tate said, like go get a six pack like me and all that bullshit. You want to be a high value man, and you think you're a loser? Go, do something charitable. Go start giving food to the homeless. Start giving soup in the soup kitchen, and then you're going to see there's people that have it out there a lot worse than you.
Yep.
And you're going to start feeling better about yourself. This is almost like a selfish act that you're doing. By giving, it's being almost selfish because you're building your self-esteem. You're building yourself back up.
Love that. Yeah. Ricky, go ahead. Lowest of the low to the highest of the highs, right?
I think that my first warning to all of the younger guys is very much watch who the fuck you're around and your association. You got to watch that because if you don't watch that, those people will have such a heavy influence on you that you will eventually become who they are. So if you like your crowd, and I don't say like because you enjoy with them, because you're drinking with you, you're fucking hungover on a Sunday with them. I mean, like you actually you're inspired by them. Like I'm inspired by these two guys, and hearing Michael and George talk.
Thank you.
It adds value to my life, because I'm younger than they are, and they have more experience than I. And I'm listening. I'm like, these are the type of men that I want in my life, right? So, and I wish I would have had that mentality when I was younger, because I would have been around people that are really high value men, because I had no value at that time. And so that's one. Number one would be associate with yourself. Try to find a couple of guys like these guys right here, and including somebody obviously like Adam. We're friends, and find people that can bring value to your life. That it's the wisdom they can bring to your life. But that's number one. But number two, where I had to reinvent myself. I went through something pretty. I had got. I was doing well because I was doing things I was not supposed to, and I was dating Erica at the time. And a CERT team raided my house, and they raided my house. I was 25 years old. That was the third time they had raided my house. And I went to court, and I went, and I was just like, damn, like I'm definitely gonna get it this time. All my uncles, a lot of my uncles have been in federal prison doing federal time. Like my cousins have been killed, and I said, oh shit, okay, here we go. And so basically, the judge is like, bro, if I ever see your ass here again, like you will not see daylight. And I was 25 years old, and I said, fuck. Okay, I was 25, 26 years old. I said, fuck. Okay, all right. And I'm not even scared to judge. This time I was dating Erica. I was engaged already. And I said to myself at that point, I have two choices to make. And at that point, I had already seen, by that time, a lot of my uncles were going through midterms. They were going through federal prison sentences. I seen them grow up. Like my cousins didn't grow up with their dads. Just this year, a couple of my cousins were murdered. Three of them, one was murdered last year because everybody's in drugs. This where we're from in Mexico. And so I asked myself, is that the life that I want? But it had to have been but it wasn't because it's because another man told me, I am going to take your freedom into the last breath that you take if this shit doesn't stop. And that was my, it wasn't a Subway story in this case, or I'm sure that, going to becoming a Latin Grammy artist is not because you had, your first song was a hit. I'm sure there was a lot of shit songs before that, and failures, and studio nights in the studio, and wonder to yourself, am I going to make it? Competing with other businesses in Miami, restaurants, now you become the number one, but you stuck it out, so that's why the business grew. So there's a lot of things that, going back to like, you have to hit rock bottom. That's for me. And unfortunately, a lot of the guys are listening, you're gonna have to go through. I just hope that rock bottom doesn't mean your tomb. But the way you could avoid that, though, is going by number one is your association. 100% of your association. You're still going to go through all the shit, but you'll go through all the shit a little softer if you're around the right people. But if you're around the wrong people, you could definitely. I have a lot of friends and cousins and family members that are in their tombs because, like Chepe was one of them. They killed him. He was 24 years old. He was one of the head right there in the area in our town where we're from. He was already a cartel leader at 24 years old. My cousin Toro, not too long ago, 32 years old. He became the head afterwards, and he got murdered by the military. Went out with the military just recently, and so but again, what was their association? You know what I mean? My uncles and seeing that's the life. And for me, my family was a bad example to a certain extent.
Let me ask you, because I think you just went full circle, because you opened up the 2 hours ago. You opened it up with saying we were talking about America, and you said the map.
Yeah.
So if you wouldn't have moved.
Yeah.
Do you think you'd
100%? I did it in America. I would have done it 10 times worse in Mexico.
All right. So if your cousins and your family had the opportunity to move, that's why you said get a map.
Get the fuck out of there.
So people,
you have lower chances because all my uncles, the ones who are doing federal time, they're here in America, but the chances of getting killed are much higher down there. Here, at least you're gonna kill here.
And they were already socially conditioned in their ways. They came here trying to fuck the system because that's what they grew up with.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason that I even wanted to get to this point is because times are tough these days. Whether that's because of COVID, whether it's because of the economy, just relationships, opioid epidemic, and we try to drop as much knowledge to young men out there as frickin' possible, and just people in general. And one thing that I'll say is that life is not linear. Life doesn't just go like this. Okay, life, this is a financial show that we incorporate dating, relationships, and life. Life is a lot like the frickin' stock market. Okay? If you look at it every single day, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down, it's crash, up, down. But over time, if you extrapolate over the last 100 years, the stock market is here, and it ends up over here, but every day is like this. Every week is like this. Every month like this. You have peaks, you have valleys, you have ups, you have downs. And that's what you need to understand in life is that who you are, the character of who you are, comes from all the shit, the highs, the lows, the ups and downs. And if Michael was never living in the streets, like if he never was partying in South Beach with the most famous people and experiencing the highs of life, and the next thing you know, he's homeless begging for money, he wouldn't have the gratitude and the appreciation of, bro, that's where I could have been, and now I'm here. Get it together. Right. If you talked about being the homeless, right? So, I was trending in that direction. I've had a very difficult situation with my father, abusive guy, and I used it to my advantage. All right, great. All right, I had to be out of the house because I didn't want to be there. That enabled me to be a better networker and more empathetic to other people. And kind of like what you said, I've always been like the hospitable type, and I used that to my advantage. And then in 2019, I had the worst situation of my life where the girl who I thought I was going to marry ended up with cancer. Wow. Boom, leukemia. Thank God she's better now, but that was the worst couple of years of my life. Talk about an all-time low. You think you're going to marry some girl, you're going to end up with some girl, cancer. Boom, 24-year-old gorgeous model, cancer. A couple months down the road, my father dies. Horrible. I'm going through deep, deep, deep depression. I'm the most happy-go-lucky, optimistic mother sucker I know. Next thing you know, I'll never forget Christmas Day, December 25th, 2019. I'm like, I've never been depressed in my life. I'm like, I'm alone in my house, no girl, my dad's dead. I'm like, this is the worst I've ever felt. Thank God we have a mutual friend, Adrian Bash, who was like, bro, a couple days, it's New Year's, we're going out, we're fucking partying. I don't care. I'm like, no, bro, I don't want to. I'm like, he's like, we're going out, and like literally midnight on New Year's, life changed. I think you went to my restaurant at the beach. I think I did.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay. So, but the point is, no matter what you're dealing with, no matter how bad it is, using the stock market analogy, there's always going to be a bounce back. The stock market crashed March of 2020 because of COVID, all-time highs 6 months later. That is life. Okay. And without the peaks and without the valleys, you're not going to be able to appreciate basically where you're at in life. So for the people that are struggling now, that are not in the right place where you want to be right now, learn from Ricky, learn from Michael, learn from George. Better days ahead. I've never quoted Joel Osteen in my freaking life.
He's pretty cool.
But he says, brighter days ahead.
But I think the common thing here is never give up.
Never give up.
That's it.
Yeah.
Never give up. And there's a lot of people that are watching this. There's a lot of young guys that are like, shit, these people have gone through some shit. Like, I don't want to go through that shit, but I still want to be successful. Do I got to go through that shit?
Yep.
Who knows what life has in store for you, but what is you are going to get to a point in anything that you do where it's going to get hard as hell and you want to quit. And it might be right around that corner and you can't quit. One of the things I do regret, I could have gone further in my music career, but I went, I'm a businessman at the same time, and I said, music is going into a different way, reggaeton, and the whole thing that happened with Napster and all these things, and that's when I kind of like said, I'm going to get into something that's more secure for me and my family, and I got into real estate, and I started doing other things, and hey, I could have been a musician, just playing gigs from here to here, which was nothing wrong with that. Or I just went into a different direction, and I don't know which one, or I could have been the fucking biggest superstar in the world. I don't know what could have happened. But what I'm saying is I pivoted, and I kind of regret that, but I didn't give up. I still said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go after this. I'm going to go after, financial security. And I went after it, and it's been a hard journey, but I've gotten to that point.
Yeah.
Can we take a shot to that, bro? Can we do this?
Yeah, I think the part of it too, just on last comment on that item too, is that like if you think of like for example, people I'm morally I don't I'm not a big fan of Trump on a moral basis. I don't agree with a lot of things that he says, but policy obviously policy I do. I don't agree with a lot of things that he says, but policy obviously policy I do, but not and that's okay. You can disagree with certain people. But the point is that one thing he did tell him, and that's why his kids are all successful as well, him, and he says, I only have 2 rules for you. No drugs, no tattoos. Oh, no, 3 rules. No drugs, no alcohol, no tattoos. Right?
You broke all 3, bro.
I broke all 3. But what I'm getting at, though, is that Trump's brother died from alcoholism, and Trump doesn't drink.
Of course.
So what I'm getting at is you have 2 kids in the same spot, and one made a decision, one made it. Now you don't have to like him. That's not not the story.
That's a very valid point. That is nothing to do with Trump. Nothing to do with Trump. It's a case of learning from the fucking failures.
Right, and then you teach your kids, because Trump talks about his son, his brother. Hey, my brother decided to go alcohol. That's a choice. And he says it. That's a choice he made.
He talks about it all
Fred
the time.
Trump. That's a choice that he made.
Yeah.
Right, and he says, but he has 3 rules for his kids: no alcohol, no drugs, no tattoos. And look at his kids. I mean, you don't have to like the guy, but shit, I would be happy with my kids turning out the way that his kids did.
No doubt.
So just
even Hillary Clinton said that.
What I'm getting at is that you can be listening to this and think you don't have to go through what we went through. Yeah. You can also learn from other people's experiences. Yes. You don't necessarily. You're gonna go through the downs 100%. Enjoy. You have to go through it, but you don't got to go to the fucking pit hole of everything.
Learn from other people's failures.
You're gonna have your own. Yes. But you could see like, damn, I don't want to end up like that. And learn from that, because some people have done that as well.
The reason that I'm bringing up this is because something that I saw on Bill Maher the other day. This is going to be our final topic of the day, and we'll wrap up, okay? And usually we do something at the end here called a happy ending, right? Play on words right there, George. Don't get any crazy ideas. But I don't know if you can. We can't play the video, but at least we can give some context to it. So this is on Bill Maher. Play it without sound for like 2 seconds just to get a perspective. So these 2 gentlemen are on Bill Maher. We'll stop it when it cuts to the Bill Maher, just so you understand. All right, whatever. It's Bill Maher's show. You get the point.
There he is.
Love that guy. Okay, great. Love that guy. Necessary voice in America right now.
Calls out everybody. I love that.
This concept right here is what I'm going to ask is like basically what it means to be a man today. Okay, and essentially his guest that he has on, his name is Scott Galloway. He's a clinical professor at NYU School of Business, the Stern School of Business in NYU. And the topic is called "Why Men Are in a Crisis," right? And we're, put on your, what kind of doctor is it that deals with people's emotions? What, clinical professor, a psychologist. The shot just really messed me up right there. Psychologist. Put on your psychiatrist hat, and let's give some diagnosis to young men out there. Basically, here's his findings: that basically this crisis for young men today, we're all in our 30s, 40s, and late 40s. Let's just call it that way. But basically saying the crisis stemming from young men is basically the most dangerous men in society are basically young men with no purpose, in broke situations, who are alone and depressed, right? And these are the type of people that turn into doing crazy situations. And this is basically what he's found. And we're going to flip it at the end with a happy ending, but basically saying that they're lonely, they're broke, and they're alone on their phone in their rooms. They're not attaching to work. They have no sense of purpose. They're not going to school, and they're not getting women. In fact, 1 in 3 men under 30 have not had sex in the last year. So if you're familiar with the 80-20 rule, the top 20% of men are getting 80% of all the women. Okay? And I assume that a lot of men on this panel have kind of been in that 20% right there. So... and then it gets exacerbated by this, work from home problem, where young men addicted to their phones, constantly on their phones, they don't have the wherewithal, the capacity to go up and approach women, right? Because they, have been sort of, dating apps is part of the problem with that. But he's basically saying work from home is a freaking disaster. It has not helped people, young men especially. And basically his advice is, listen, you got to clean it up. You got to get out there and basically learn how to read the room, learn how to network, and just fucking get your ass out there. Okay? And dating apps basically have hurt this problem, because now basically you're just like, yo, what up? How you doing, girl? What's up? Like, there's no communication. You don't know how to go up to a girl and say, hey, how you doing? I'm George. Nice to see you. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Okay. Michael Capponi. Welcome to the place. Blah, blah, blah. Young men are basically struggling in that area, and that leads to basically the crisis that we're dealing with right now. So essentially his findings is like young men need relationships, whether it's friends, right? Kind of some of the reasons that Andrew Tate is blown up is he's basically saying you need a network of fucking dudes you can roll with. Okay? And if you have a crew you can roll with, you can, network is your net worth. Make sure you're hanging out with the right people. And at the same time, you need some women in your life. Not just apps, not porn, not on your phone. Go out and get some women. Okay? So that's sort of the crisis mode that we're dealing with young men today. These are situations that we didn't ever have to deal with. COVID, mobile phones, dating apps, lockdowns. This is stuff that when we were kids, when we were 15, 20, 25 years old, we didn't have to deal with any of this stuff. But young men today are exactly dealing with this, okay? So as men who have been established, successful, been around the block, what do you think it means to be a man today? And what advice do you have for young men out there today? Let's go. Ricky first, and let's wrap
I actually want to hear Michael first.
Okay, Michael.
No, let's go with 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old.
Go with that. But go ahead, Ricky. Lay it on me. Speak like you're speaking at a freaking PHP event right now on the main stage with Shaq and Nelly overlooking you right now. What do young men, how can they improve today based on all the stats that you've heard in this crisis that young men are dealing with, and everything we just talked about reinventing yourself and going through some shit? What does it mean to be a man today, and how can men improve?
Well, I mean, look, the definition of what could be what it is. Now I'm talking about biology and psychology. I'm not talking about, because we already don't know what a man, what it is to be a man. I don't give a fuck what you feel. You could feel like you're a woman.
Yeah, I'm not asking the biological question of what is a man.
You got dick and balls. You're a man, bro. Like that was God's plan for you. So get some help. But anyway, point is this. I think that we're trying to okay. If you were talking to me at 25 years old and you talking to me about purpose, I would shut you the fuck out.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I would never even listen to you because that's not where I'm at in life. I've always been a hustler. I've been slanging since I was 13 years old. Don't ask me what, but I've been slanging since I was 13 years old. Mm-hmm. So before anything, and I think that's why the stage of having what you want monetarily is so important. Because even though that doesn't give your life full value, it will give you value at that point in time. And then eventually you will evolve to what your purpose is in life. But in the meanwhile, like, I don't want live out your purpose and all that. The 25-year-old's not going to listen. None of us at 25 listen to that conversation because we just didn't. So right now, man, you just got to grab your balls, tie them up, and go do some. You got to make a bold move. Right? So you got to make a bold move. If you're not happy with where you are right now, you just, dress up nice, go put on some applications somewhere. Do not take a job from home. It is killing, depression's through the roof. Mm-hmm. Go meet people.
You need to be out there.
You just got to get, we're talking about those guys right now, right? Like they're depressed. You just got to go out there. It's uncomfortable. I understand, but you just got to go out there, meet some people, get rejected. Do a bold move. Go into the biggest building in your fucking city and say, can I talk to the CEO? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're gonna tell you no, but shit, just go out. You gotta make a bold move Because if you're just pondering about what you're doing, let me think, and what if, you can't live in that what if. Right now, especially 25 with the depression, with COVID and all this, you gotta go out there and make a bold move. Try to find a circle of guys that are like this. Maybe they won't accept you right away, but find some guys that, connect. The good thing about the internet is you can connect with people. Look at guys that are entrepreneurs in your city. See what they're doing. Find the barbershop where they're having good conversations, because there's the barbershops in my compadre. We have good conversations. We're talking about growth. My compadre say, hey man, I paid off my house and this and that.
You go to a barbershop?
Yeah, I know. Believe it or not, I do, because I buzz it all the way because I don't like dealing with things. I travel a lot. But I know. But I do the sides. Yeah, I know. but part of the reason is because I enjoy having the conversation with my compadre, So there's a place in your city, I promise you, as a fact, where there's guys hanging out talking about growing, that are after hours, a cigar lounge, but they're somewhere. You just gotta find them and just go fucking introduce yourself to them. And that's step one. It's just going out there and meeting people. And forget about what it is to be a man right now. Right now, you just gotta go make a bold move. Later on in time, that will come to you. And of course, if we're talking about the guys that are providing for your family, I think there's 3 structures that we all have to watch out for. It's providing for your family, having a relationship with God, and giving back to your community. To me, that's what a man is, right? So, but that's a little bit more advanced if you're trying to get through depression. You don't give a fuck about a family and giving back to, having a connection with God and giving back to your community. Get off your feet, go meet some people. But if you're, like, hey man, I'm making $80,000 a year, but I'm trying to figure out what to do with my life, man. You go have a connection with God. That's one of the most important things that I think that. Then you're starting to realize that you were not just born. People are living like their life like they're an accident. You were not put on this earth to just pay bills and die. Figure it out, and you will not figure it out right now. It's going to take some time, but have a spiritual connection. I've read the Bible from beginning, from Genesis to Revelation 4 times. I've read the Quran. You start to realize that men were put on this earth to serve a purpose, right? And so you start to get in tune with that, and then find out how you can help your community. Like Ruth, shout out to Ruth Escobar. She's the one that we do the charities with, where we give away 115 laptops, give away 500 shoes and shirts to kids, did the haircuts. I give away 200 turkeys in my neighborhood, 250 turkeys in my neighborhood for last Thanksgiving. I'm gonna do it again this year. So you gotta get moving. You gotta get involved. You gotta get in the vibes. You gotta get in and it's uncomfortable at the beginning, and you're gonna get rejected and shut down 1,000,000 times. But it's beautiful, because eventually, when you get your foot in the door, you're gonna make some beautiful relationships. The way I have with Pat now, the relationship that we have with you guys, and ironically, you're gonna look at. I don't want to say ironically, but you're gonna connect with men. Like Nat's dad is so much, older than me, but I feel like, man, that's where I want to be. Great marriage, great daughters, great businessman. There's so much wisdom when I talk to him. I slept in the same room with him. He kicked me out of the room because I snore really loud.
Oh, yeah, he told me.
We were in, I think, Modesto or Washington, D.C., and he's like, brother. But the point is that when you get around men that are wiser than you, you become wise. Yeah. And that's the number one. If I could go back and change anything at a very young age, it would be my association. And everything else would have been so different for me.
100%.
So that would be my advice.
Awesome. Thank you, Ricky. Jorge Moreno.
That's such a general question. Everything that he said was great. I think I've been many different men in my life. Every decade I kind of reinvent what a man is for me in that decade. And when it comes to being a man, I always pay for a woman. I'm chivalrous. I open doors and so on and so forth. I do those classical things, which are a little bit of social conditioning and a little bit of, my girl says, you're very open-minded, but you are a little machista. You have a little bit.
You still got that Latin love.
Yeah, I still got it. I definitely have things that I've been socially conditioned with. And there's some things that I think that it's just more of, they're beautiful things. Like bringing a woman flowers, but I think respecting women in a way that they're your equals. They're not. That's a real man will respect a woman, and not they'll say, "Oh, I can do whatever I want," but you can't because a real man doesn't do that. A real man sees them on an equal playing field, and I haven't done that. All my life, I've learned through the school of hard knocks to become that man. But I have a daughter, and I want a man to treat. I want to treat women like a man would treat my daughter. You know what I mean? A lot changes when you have a daughter. A lot changes. Your definition of a man changes when you have a daughter. You don't want, you don't want a guy to. I don't want my daughter to go out with a Tate guy. There's no fucking way. My daughter's gonna be second to this guy, that thinks he's God's gift. I want a man to be the chivalrous, to be the Prince Charming, but at the same time to be that equal, to be that strong person, because men are, inherently they're stronger in most cases, I'm generalizing, than women, but a real man will defend a woman in any type of situation, even if you don't know the woman. If I don't know a woman and there's a fight that breaks out and it's coming towards her, I will try my best capacity to push her out of the way or protect her or shield her or do something. And I think a man takes risks. A man goes into the house if there's, a danger and tries to save people. And a woman can do the same thing. I'm talking about humans in general. I don't only want to stereotype men, because I think we should just be better humans, be the best humans we could be.
There you go.
And it sucks that, that we kind of, you're a man, I'm a woman, and we do these lines and we try to say who's better and who's worse and whatever. We're all the fucking same. And somebody that's a transgender or somebody that's this and somebody that, I'm not putting labels on anybody. If you want to have sex with a toaster, go for it. I don't give a shit what you do, as long as it's not infringing on me, as long as you're not trying to make me have sex with a toaster. But go do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Or as long as it's not infringing on your kids.
Or no, if my kids want to do whatever, if my daughter wants to be transgender, when they get to an age, I will try to guide them to have a better life. Not such a hard life, because those people have hard lives. And some of them do need help mentally, and some of them are trapped in a different body. So there's men that are trapped in a different body, they feel like women. There's women that are trapped in a different body, they feel like men. And I'm not saying either of them is right or wrong, because that's the universe. The universe is fucking random, right? So what I'm saying is, just try to be good with people. Just try to, if you're a real man, try not to generalize, stereotype. Try not to think you're better than anybody else. Try not to, if you see somebody in danger, I'm going to look the other way. Help the person. Try to help people. Try to be, try to have some balls.
Respect. Well, speaking of helping people, legendary Michael Capponi in the house. Final word. What does it mean to be a man? You heard everything that we went through. Give us some more of the wisdom that you've been dropping today. Final word.
I think they both, nailed everything on the spot. I think it's all that. It's all degrees of learning to emulate God eventually, right? So, how many accumulate all virtues. So it has so many different degrees. And like I said, it goes from just a small act of kindness to, on every level. And in our journey in life, we work on it and eventually, you're waking up in the morning and you're meditating on reflecting on all of a review of yesterday. And you're, I yelled at this person and I talked down to this person, I made fun of this person. And then you review that every night before going to sleep and every morning before. You start basically assessing and analyzing your life, right? With such review that you fine-tune it over and over, right? We all make mistakes, right? Like yesterday I may have yelled at somebody and arrogant and da-da-da, and I'll review it, and then tomorrow I might get them flowers, right? And that's how we become better at everything we do. Like I said, it's not about scale. It's not about how many people have you helped. It's about how often are you a good person? Are you just a good person when the TV's on? Are you a good person on Instagram but not behind the doors? Do you walk the talk? Do you preach, right? What you teach. And that's it. And it's just a fine art. And
I think what if there's some bigger lessons here is that we're in a constant growth phase, and no matter where you're at in life right now, there's going to be a constant evolution. Your story is constantly being written, and no victim mentality in this freaking room. No. You got to do it yourself, and greater things will come your way if you stay on that path. Anyway, this has been probably our deepest show we've done. Nat, we usually have some more money stuff, dating stuff, laughs, I think this was a very, very deep show. And I think we pulled a lot of knowledge out of some very, very great men, and super appreciative that you guys showed up here. This is what we do here, baby, on Valuetainment. We're going to give you some value. We're going to entertain. You're going to learn. You're going to laugh. You're going to cry, maybe, but not today. Nat, final word to you. Any comments you want to write out there? Any super chats before we wrap up?
We did have one more super chat from Art Score, and it's $10. Thank you. He said, Michael, do you know or study with Rabbi David Aaron? I read his book, Seeing God. When I was in college 22 years ago, I asked because the way you storytell reminds me of him.
I have not studied with him, but I've studied with many Kabbalist rabbis, and I'll be very open. I work with plant medicines today. I've worked with ayahuasca. I've worked with Kabbalists. I have. When you get to that level, there'll be no religion anymore. Religion actually will become useless. Everyone, just like you said, become best friends with God.
Yeah.
Know yourself, and you'll see that all of it is the same thing, And the key is, as we purify our souls the most, and we are clean, and we're not wearing karma, we get so connected that we actually all become prophets. And then we understand how everything gets channeled through, right? And that's how the different prophets, the different so-called religions have derived down, right? The same information from the same iCloud, right?
There you go, Nat. That answer your question?
Yes, that answered my question.
Final thoughts, Nat. Go ahead.
Final thoughts. I just would like to maybe say a statement that my dad always likes to tell me is, who do you want to be remembered for? Because at the end of the day, when you are gone, that's what people are going to remember about you. Like, what do you want to be remembered for? So I think today's panel was really great to see a group of men in different places of their life giving different perspectives, and they're all valid. And I think everybody in the audience today was able to learn something without necessarily going through the pain that you guys have all occurred to reach the success level that you're at. So I think really take value in some of the stories and getting to know some of you guys gentlemen, because you guys gave a lot of great advice for especially men who are trying to find their way through life. And I loved it. I thought it was a great show, and I hope to have you guys back. I really do. I really liked it today.
Thanks, Nat.
Thank you.
You want to tell them what to do? What do we got to do here?
You guys should already know what to do. Make sure you guys like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys put your bell on for all the upcoming episodes we have. We have a lot of exciting things headed this way. Subscribe to Valuetainment, Jedediah, Funny How. We have so many things coming, and I'm excited to take you guys along the way with us.
Yeah, there you go, Nat. All right, guys, thanks for being a part of here. Thank you, gentlemen, for all being here. This was awesome. I'm a couple cocktails in. I feel great. I might go do some plant medicine with Mike Capponi after this. You never know.
It's on Friday.
We'll see you guys next time. We love you. Peace out. Save that money. Bye.